Right, welcome along to episode 2 of the Masturbate. Today has a
Sure.
very quirky name, which we're going to get it.
Sure.
What?
The Masturbate Show. God.
Oh,
Wah, wah, wah. Well, there's the intro sorted. There's the intro.
wait, hold up a minute. What did I say there? I said that?
The Masturbate. You never said show at the end.
Man.
God almighty.
Right.
You had one job. You had
One job.
man.
It's fine. We're recording.
There's
This
no,
is in. This is in. There's no editing now. This is it.
You're making us okay. You're putting us so much under pressure, right? Okay,
Eh?
fair enough. Right. Okay, so I can whatever I say right now is going to go out to the people.
Yes.
Like I don't like my co-host.
Megan said that as well.
Okay, right. Okay, fine. Let's go. Right. Okay. So this is the Masturbate Show,
Hey.
episode 2. We're gonna get into the quirky name just in a little bit. So let's introduce who's in the chat today. Starting us off, we've got Dan from F1E Reviews. Dan, how are you doing today?
Good afternoon, mate. I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. It's exciting, isn't it, to come back, for episode 2 and quirky name on the thumbnail. But we'll get into that in a little bit. Next up, we have the victor of his recent video, which was the YouTuber's Hunger Games on his channel, and that is Sir Meerkat from Moto Meerkat. So, Sir, how are you doing?
Well, go on, my fellow gamers. I'm very, very well, thank you, sir. Very happy to be back masturbating with you all again. So I look forward to this chat with everyone.
Oh,
Mer.
yes. We absolutely love it. I mean, it might not be your only one for the day, but this is the best one to do for the day.
I've had a few warm-ups already.
Oh,
Oh my
right.
God.
That's
Right. Moving on.
So the next person comes all the way from New Zealand. I mean, like this is a morning session for him. Crazy. Josh Ravel, how are you doing today, sir? And what time is it for you? And like, just how are you actually doing it? Are you just lying in bed, or where are you masturbating from?
Wow.
Hey everyone, I'm only here for the paycheck. So it's 2:45 in the morning here. If you're wondering how I do it, I really don't know, but I am here, so finds me masturbating with all of you. Or wait, did I say it wrong? Oh Jesus.
Whatever you say. So yeah, I mean, sometimes it's got to be like the right time. I don't think I could do it at 2:45. That's just way too early. Okay, so the next person comes from normal UK time, and it is Johnny from Johnny's Corner. Johnny, how are you doing today, my friend?
Yeah, I'm good. Hello, everyone. Are we all ready for this? We're all slick.
Not at all.
I was born
Next
ready.
person to join the chat, he is a new person, as he wasn't on episode 1. It is our great friend Aldas. Obviously, me and Jordan met him in Silverstone. Aldas, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing pretty good. Looking forward to my first masturbate. So yeah, should be fun.
I hope not ever. I mean, like, what, your mid-20s now?
Whoa.
Just turned 20 actually, but
Oh, right, okay, well, sorry about that. You should be,
mid-20s, mate. What are you on about?
You've just
Sorry about
insulted.
that. Anyway.
You've just insulted Aldas.
Insulted.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
he's never coming back now. Cheers,
no,
Lyle.
I'm leaving. That's it.
I'm sorry. I don't know how old people are. It's rude.
God, I give him the keys to one episode. And look what he's doing.
Me? Oh, yeah. Okay, yes, I'm running ragged with it. Right, okay, so we have a substitution from Mike, who was going to be on this chat. But today we have Jack Chambers from the channel Shadow Macker. Love saying that in our northeastern twang. So, Jack, how are you doing today?
I'm good, thank you, mate. I'm glad to be joining you in a positive masturbate session.
Yes, definitely.
Yes.
Good substitution. I'm happy with that. Next up, again, we have a new person joining us for his first masturbation session with us. It is Ewan from Lotus Raptors. Ewan or Lotus, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm ready for this masturbate session.
Oh, yes. It should be a good one. And then last, but no, actually, no, we have one more person to announce after him. So then next up, we have Ollie from TGS F1. Just a little thing on him. He's got a brand new series out coming up soon called 10 in 10, which we were on. I'm not sure who else was on. Might be in this channel, but we were definitely on. We talked about Red Bull. I'm very looking forward to that. Again, a very, rising star in YouTube. Really excited to talk to him. Ollie, how are you doing today? And yeah, are you excited for this group session that we're all going to have together?
Yeah, thanks for having me, lads. Yeah, looking forward to it. Like you said, chatted to a few of you before, so second time is the masturbation session. But my usual Sunday is sat in the spare room masturbating with a load of blokes online, so nothing different for
Oh,
me.
yes. Oh, that is an amazing way to spend a Sunday. And last but not least, or maybe least, is my co-host Jordan from the F1 Debate Show. Jordan, how are you doing today? And obviously, you were the man who organised all of this. So, yeah, second time leading the pack of all of us masturbating. So, how does it feel to be back?
Yeah, it's all right. I mean, I could be doing something better, but
No.
no, I'm only kidding. No, I've been looking forward to this for a while.
Yeah, who else are you going to go masturbating with, man? This is the best group to have. So that is.
I wanted to
everyone
say
in
something
the
there, but I'm not going to.
Oh no, you can. Anyone can say anything. So that is
There's still
everyone
time.
in this
There's still
chat.
time.
This is everyone in this chat. So last time, what did we talk about? We talked about Paul Ricard, didn't we? The surrogate.
Oh,
And who brought up that? Is that
here we
person in
go.
this chat?
I knew this was going to come up.
Completely forgot. Come on. Why did we say Paul Ricard and then we changed our mind? Who said it? Who said it?
Oh no.
I can't remember.
No.
Was it
I think
Albert?
I brought it up.
Oh, don't get me involved in this, Dan.
Well,
Get the newbies thrown under the bus.
Well, I'll tell you what. We're going to stay with Paul Ricard just to kick this chat off. We had a few questions on Twitter, so we're going to start off with one from Uzair Saeed. Again, sorry about pronunciation. We've talked about him many times on our channel, and he says that Sochi, Abu Dhabi, so Yas Marina Circuit, and Paul Ricard are the trilogy of trash. So what are we saying about that? So Paul Ricard, we've already talked about that. So we've got Yas Marina and Sochi, the trilogy of trash. 3 tracks that he obviously thinks is trash, rubbish, crap, shouldn't be in, should be masturbated on. So what is our thinking on that? Anyone jump in? What do you think on those tracks?
Well, they are, but the slight problem is the last 2 or 3 years we've actually ended up with really good races at Abu Dhabi for no apparent reason.
Yeah.
I don't understand it.
Do you think that's just because of the title? Do you think that's just because of the final round? Like, if we moved back to Brazil, for example, do you think that Abu Dhabi would lose its, panache and, as you say, like some good races?
Oh, definitely. But,
Well, I think its best race was when it wasn't the season finale, the 2012 race, because that was a lot of stuff that actually happened there, which doesn't often happen at Paul Ricard. So, or Abu Dhabi, sorry, I'm getting confused already.
I think that's partly down to the cars, though. I mean, the reason why 2012 was actually a really good race in Abu Dhabi is because they could actually overtake. We saw Sebastian Vettel make that comeback after starting, I think, from the pits or something. But the problem is nowadays the cars are like 5 meters wide, so you can't even overtake. So that's the big problem. Abu Dhabi is like, it's okay as a track, but I think the cars are the main problem. But yeah, the past couple of years we've had decent races. So yeah, I don't know. Abu Dhabi I think is okay, but the other two certainly absolutely terrible.
I think one of the problems with Abu Dhabi is the last sector, because it goes through that hotel thing. Like it just goes through there, and you can't pass there. See, if it just went straight on, I think it would be better, because then you'd get another chance to overtake. Because it's normally you get those 2 straights, and then possibly the hairpin if you're opportunistic. Other than that, you can't pass there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if it went straight on, it would also go into the marina.
Fair enough.
That would provide some good racing.
It'd be more exciting.
Survival of the fittest.
It was actually made when it was made, because I've actually been on a tour of the track, not during the race, but
Mr. Worldwide.
So,
get you!
I don't want to glow. Come on, I don't want to glow.
The worldwide.
I mean, I was in the designing process. I have a little bit of knowledge.
And I've also, fine, okay, if you want to play it like that. I've also stayed in it's called the Yas Viceroy Hotel, the one shaped like a penis, and I've also stayed in that. I love being in that. So yeah.
A penis and a penis makes sense.
Who was the biggest penis? That was saying. I mean, I don't know if that's the best. It was good. It was a good design for the track, but I'm like, sometimes it doesn't really fit the bill for Abu Dhabi. It looks nice at night because all lights up and it's got like that fishnet kind of appearance. But sometimes I'm like, it doesn't look the best, and especially, I mean, when it was designed in 2009, it was like, we don't have many tracks that really grab you all and go, wow, because we only had one night race then at Singapore. It was a year old. We had Monaco. But really, apart from that, we didn't have any like amazing, races that like were, great to watch, if that makes sense. So Abu Dhabi, being a man-made circuit on a man-made island, that goes under a hotel, was, exciting. But yeah, you're right. I'm like, it's not the best. Just when you're sitting there, also, it's actually designed like a gun. I don't know if that helps. Yeah, I don't know why. Just remember learning that on the tour. It said that it was designed like a gun. But yeah, I'm not a massive fan of the track. But it's been, it's had some good races. I mean, 2012, yeah, great. I mean, Kimmy winning, me losing a bet. So.
Oh.
You're going to use the night race as a gimmick to at least give a good backdrop. It works great in Singapore.
Yeah.
But
the one thing.
You've just got that hotel and nothing else. They need a lot more stuff around it to make it exciting. That's the one reason why I actually quite like the idea of Miami.
Yeah.
That promenade along the seafront in Miami, it's all awesome, cool 1930s, Art Deco hotels and clubs with the neon. It would have looked incredible.
Yeah.
I imagine having an F1 race down the street of Blackpool.
Wow.
No,
Wow.
an F1 race down the street at Blackpool.
Glamorous.
I mean, I would say. I mean, the problem is with it. It was built.
Here we go.
Pause. Okay. So, honestly, I want to ask a question. So, apart from London, if we were going to hold a street race in the UK, where would it be and why? Apart from London, because obviously that's been talked about, and we have the E-Prix. So, yeah, anywhere else in England, like for a street race, where would it be and why?
Or New Zealand for Josh.
Oh yes, and
Look at that.
Even though I think like what is it, Wellington, Auckland, something they're probably the only two places I know in New Zealand. No offense, man, but yeah, but let's stick with the UK first. UK, where the UK cities we would do?
Not Glasgow.
Glasgow.
Oh, definitely not Glasgow.
I'm just saying, not Glasgow. Never.
Or not Glasgow.
Maybe like I don't know. I don't even know. Milton Keynes, the Monaco of Great Britain, right there.
Ooh, that would be good. Passing through the Red Bull factory.
Exactly.
It'll be literally just like roundabout after roundabout after roundabout after roundabout after roundabout after roundabout. Absolutely.
The obvious choice here is Swindon because of that roundabout. Just for the lols. Well, the problem is in Britain, anywhere that looks cool and has the backdrop hasn't got the roads to be able to do it.
So you know the
amazing, but try doing it there.
You know that track in Germany, the Nordschleife, I think it is. The Nürburgring.
Nordschleife.
Nordschleife.
Nordschleife. Nordschleife.
Said the Nürburgring, or the Nordschleife.
No, I couldn't have. I wanted to be cool and be German. At school, I was.
You may as well have called it the Nordscheiße, mate.
The Nordschleife.
The Nordschnitzel.
Well, that.
Paul Riccardi, what are you saying?
Yeah, so you know how that's like 10k? You know what they should do? They should make a track, because as a crow flies, Newcastle and Sunderland, like 6 miles away, they should make a track between Newcastle and Sunderland. Like,
That's a very bad idea.
So cool. Along the sea. Oh man, you would love that.
I'm trying to get my head around why you specifically came up with those two towns. Like, I just can't put my finger on it.
Nothing to do with anything.
Oh.
I'd throw Birmingham into the mix as a Brummie, just because it's super accessible as sort of like central point, easy for the teams to get to. They have like the finals day here for cricket, and the city's got quite a few like main A roads that run underneath it and over it through.
Wasn't there like some sort of plan?
So it could
run it on the old Super Pre track.
Yeah, there was.
Go down one formula. It's already had several.
Yeah.
What about? I mean, this might be a bit of a strange one, but it would be cool to see, I suppose. What about like the TT course on the Isle of Man? Like, I mean, I know there wouldn't be any overtaking, but that'd be quite like a weird one, I suppose, as a challenge.
Yeah.
I would just end up being batshit crazy, and somebody would end up getting killed there.
Yep.
It'd be good to watch that.
It would be.
I mean, I feel like some people only watch the motorbike stuff just so that they can see the crashes. Some people, I say.
I mean, I've watched a few TT races, and I'm just like, Jesus, that it just looks like I could never do that. It's like the speed they're pulling is like absolutely ridiculous, and they had like one little mistake, and you're in a field, and
It was also mad when I went to the TT a couple of years ago. Like how they deal with the fans and spectators and that. Like we were sat beside the road with our legs like on the edge of this banking, and the bikes were going like straight past our legs. There was nothing stopping us from just getting in the road and getting hit by one of the bikes. It was
Or jumping on the back.
Yeah, just as he's going
Yeah,
past at 180, he just jumps straight on.
Oh my god.
Yeah, there's
very
very
much
little value of spectator safety at the TT. I mean, the year I went, we were sat on the roof of a pub, watching it with the pub passing beers out through the window.
It's just absolutely crazy. Like every single other thing. So, for example, obviously, now Monaco, going off of Monaco, what should have been, and like that's obviously come such a long way in terms of safety. I mean, if you remember, I think it was 1954. I think Alberto Ascari ran off the circuit and missed a chicane, and instead of going into a barrier, he went into the sea. He just went straight into the Mediterranean Sea, and like obviously that's changed a lot since then. But yeah, the Isle of Man has never changed, or very rarely, very much changed in terms of safety along the whole coast. It's just absolutely crazy. Like it's crazy.
Is it really bad that the only TT race I've ever seen is James May drive around in a Meccano bike? That's the only one I've ever seen. But I've seen the crashes though. Like you said, it's definitely not Formula One friendly, if that kind of makes sense. You can't really race there in Formula One cars. But
Yeah.
I think it would just be amazing to kind of. It's a really long track, so I think that would be quite cool. Because the one thing I don't like about modern tracks is they're all like a minute 20. Every single time now is like a minute 20. I remember back even like 10 years ago, Spa was like a minute 50, and like sometimes even 2 minutes in the rain. So that was quite good. I want to see more longer tracks, not just all 1 minute 20 tracks, if that kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
But I think with these new regulations coming in, I think the cars are going to be like 3 seconds slower. So we could be seeing times that we used to see back in the day, because I think the cars have just got faster, and not like necessarily the tracks have got slower, or shorter, if you know what I mean.
I think what also like doesn't help it as well when it comes to like track length. It doesn't help that they're all designed, generally speaking, by the same person.
Yeah. I wonder who that could be.
Kyle.
Oh, thanks. Well, I know that's probably old news now, but like you're saying about the tracks, one of the things that gives Paul Ricard the ultimate like get in the bin kind of thing is like if you go off circuit, it really, really does not matter, because it's just full of like there's no gravel, there's no anything. You know what I mean? It's like just that red and that kind of like disorientating colours, and you just run. There's no problem at all. When in Suzuka, if you go an inch off the track, you run into gravel, and you have to stay on the circuit.
You even just put one wheel off the track, and then you end up having a Daniel Kvyat style crash.
Oh yes, wow, that was crazy. Like yeah, I mean, and he was going uphill as well. You think like, how do you somersault going uphill? It's just because he had so much speed going into that corner.
Do you think we'll see more tracks like that though? Because I think it was Chain Bear who did that video on safety and traps and things like that, and the boringest runoffs are just by far the most safe in terms of like protecting drivers and spectators and so on. So hopefully it doesn't go that way.
That's all the tracks were evolved on, is obviously safety, because like everyone keeps saying. I mean, we've had it a couple of times in our agree or disagree series where everyone's saying get rid of Monaco because you can't overtake there. And like, yeah, that's fine, but just referring to what Aldar said earlier about the whole that the cars are wider, hence why it's very difficult to overtake at some tracks, and it's the same with Monaco. It's just that obviously you can't update Monaco very very much, so obviously the cars are like out of date with the track. But like one little mistake in Monaco and you're out the Grand Prix, there's no recovering. And that, for me, is like that isn't a very exciting thing. Like, you can't put a foot wrong. Unlike tracks like, like Paul Ricard and various others with long runoffs, it is safe, but like there's no gravel trap. It's just tarmac, and you can easily get back on. And it's like, well, where's the excitement in that? Obviously, we don't want to see drivers get killed and spectators get killed. That's the thing. So it's like compromising between the two. Like, make the track like more so that if a driver makes a mistake, he's going to go off and that's him finished. Like his race anyway. Also as well, like you don't want to see people get killed.
Yeah, but
the only exception to the recent design things has been Zandvoort, because I mean, if you look at Zandvoort, I mean that's virtually unchanged apart from making it a slight bit wider and more grandstands for more people in orange shirts to attend in. But apart from that, and of course they made that friggin' NASCAR style corner, which I mean, I don't know how they allow that to be safe because it bloody well isn't. But that's the exception to the rule. Of like recent cookie cutter tracks. This is totally different, and that does harken back to sort of the more the circuits of the past, which were not that safe. Not that safe, I'm sort of speaking a bit lightly there. But it'll be interesting to see how that goes because I mean, surely one would shit their pants massively if they got it wrong coming over the top of the hill. And everyone agrees with me. Great.
Yeah. I think. Sorry, man. It's a time difference. It's a time delay. So anyway, I'm just thinking there, like when we were saying about runoff areas. One of the runoff areas that I hate, but I don't like. It's a big talking point, but it also, of course, is mainly for safety because you've got a massive straight. Is Baku turn one at Baku? It's an incredible runoff area. Do you know what I mean? Like, so obviously, for example, when the Red Bulls collided, the Bulls went into there. It's a massive runoff area, and of course, it's safe because if you're full speed 320 and 8 gear, if you miss a braking zone, you go into there instead of going into a barrier. It's obviously going to be a lot safer. But if you go a little bit offline, it does not matter. You can almost like just circle around, do a tighter left-hand turn to get back onto the circuit. You know what I mean? That is the corner, I think. And there's a lot of corners in Baku like that, where the straight's just, there's a turn, obviously, but then after that, there's just a big braking zone where, of course, you can go in, you can spin the car. If anything, you can reverse the car, like what Ricardo did. Hopefully not into another Daniel, of course. But, Baku's the one where it's got runoff areas, of course, and it should do as a street circuit, but that's the one that I think is it hasn't done it right. Do you get what I mean? And like in turn one, there is a lot of
you need that runoff area though because
that's the longest straight in Formula One.
Yeah, like if your brakes fail when you go into the braking zone, you need a long runoff area because if you don't, I dread to think.
Yeah, but if that was the case, they may as well just have to extend it into the sea. The runoff area is big enough for someone to make a mistake, turn around, flip the car, whatever, and get back on the circuit. And yeah, of course, it might have these incidents, but then so will Monaco and things like that. And like Max Verstappen in 2015.
Yeah, but in Monaco, you're not doing the speeds that you're doing in Baku at the end of the straight, which is what is it like 200 miles per hour plus 210, 218.
Yeah,
something.
And if you're on a slipstream with DRS, it's going to be like 218, 220. So, and obviously that's when safety comes into the equation. It's like even if gravel trap was there, the car's going to still like probably dig in and then roll. That's not what you want. It's like that's perfectly fine. It's just a case.
No, not at all.
It's just a case of like people are saying to get rid of Monaco and just have these long runoff areas. It's like, no, you need that element of like, safety, but at the same time, like Baku, once you turn after turn one, it's very narrow, and again, same into turn two, which I must say I love Baku. I don't know if anyone does, but I on a weird note, I love that track.
It's okay.
I love that track. Driving on an F1, I love that. But yeah,
with them, so
more
like
switched on you have to be.
Like Paul Ricard.
Yeah.
I mean, the runoff areas are excessive, but if you put more of a deterrent there, so I mean, I'm going to sound like Bernie Ecclestone here, I know, but you wet the runoff areas, you put sprinklers on them, you put one tire off, you're not going to ruin your race, but it's going to take a while to get that tire back up to temperature, or even if you spin. I know I sound like Bernie Ecclestone here.
I think that's what the things actually do. Like at Paul Ricard, like they're supposed to be like the way that they've actually put whatever it is like down onto the runoff areas. They're supposed to like increase tire wear significantly, but there needs to be more of a deterrent than that, where they need to put like sensors on to determine how much they've cut the chicane or cut a corner or whatever. They need to sort of like police it better, because I don't think we'll be going back to, let's say, like gravel traps and like grass anytime soon, but they're going to have to reinforce it more.
After the Alonso crash in Australia, that was the thing that basically cemented gravel traps being done in Formula One when Alonso barrel rolled.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but they only look at one thing. The FIA really needs to get someone in who is fully experienced and time served in the whole scope of system safety, because they just don't understand all of the various points that happen in system safety. There's various terms that are used for accidents, like binge effects, black swans, all the rest of them, various theories, and they don't know any of them. the Alonso accident proved to me, yes, it can cause a car to roll, but the complaint against gravel traps isn't valid anymore, particularly years since when the Halos come in, because the worry was always cars digging in, not the fact that they would roll, it was the fact that the roll hoop would dig in and become useless. That's not an issue anymore. Rolling over is probably the safest way to crash in F1 right now. People were mega shocked at Ericsson's crash in Monza. That's the safest crash we've seen for over 10 years.
Yeah, the more dangerous.
At all. They just. It seems weird that I know it sounds stupid that I'm trying to say the FIA don't know what they're doing, but they really don't. In the whole safety, they just focus on, there's this one thing that's caused this to happen, so we've got to do this. They don't look at the whole prospect. And there are revenge effects waiting to happen and cause serious. I mean, the one that sticks in my head, we've got the issue with the battery packs of sometimes there's an issue and you've got to jump clear of the car and the marshals can't touch it because they could die.
Yeah.
Look at Hulkenberg in Abu Dhabi. What if that had been the case there? What if there'd been damage to his battery pack and he's upside down, propped on the wall with a fire going, and they can't even use the extinguishers because going back might kill the marshals? He's absolutely screwed, and they're not looking broad enough at the possible revenge effects.
That was ridiculous how they left Hulkenberg there.
It's not until like someone gets really injured or in some cases killed for them actually for them to do something.
Exactly. And that's been the constant problem for 70 years.
I mean, unfortunately, just like is a very sad thing to talk about. The FIA has been talking about head protection, and for a very long time they've been looking into it. But we all know that in Japan 2014, and then more prominently Hungary 2015, obviously after the news of obviously the Lidio Bianchi came through, that he crashed and then obviously he passed away. That only then did the FIA and the FOM actually shut the doors in the in the garage in the trailers and go, right, let's come up with a decision. Do you know what I mean? Before that, there was never talks about a halo or an aero screen or anything. But obviously there was talks.
There was talks, but
it was only sped up. It was only sped up then. And if I know it's I don't really want to bring it in as a conversation to say if what happened at Joule hadn't happened, would we be sitting here with a halo? But the chances are maybe not, because obviously that did accelerate the the production of one.
Oh no, we definitely would, because
Justin Wilson.
People overestimate the effect that Bianchi's crash had in the push of the Halo. The Halo it was being talked about and developed long before that happened, and also ironically would have done nothing to help Bianchi. Nothing. The only thing that ever would have saved him was not hitting the track.
What about the incident with Henry Surtees?
Yeah, I was.
Why didn't
that was really where it came?
Yeah, that should have. If that was in Formula One, they would have done something straight away. But because it was in the lower ranks, they did nothing. What year was that? 2009.
Yeah, there was Henry Surtees, and then later on in the same year, just after Jules Bianchi had actually passed away, they had the Justin Wilson over in IndyCar when he got hit by that piece of debris, and I think that's where it all sort of began to get sped up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that.
It's been in development for years, but
Masters obviously, and there was a big crash in GP2 for Ernesto Viso, where he rolled on top of the wall, and it's blind luck.
Yeah.
He got out of.
And I love how there was people that were still saying, it still looks ugly and stuff like that, when it had already saved some guy's life in F2. Who was the guy that was driving alongside Markolov and Mikino? Yeah. Fukuzumi's car could have hit him in the head, but the Halo sort of saved him in that sort of aspect, and you still had people saying, "Oh, Halo looks ugly."
Yeah.
There were still people saying that after the Alonso Leclerc incident, it's just you can never win over some people.
Yeah.
I mean, the Alonso Leclerc one, Jesus Christ, it hit the Halo so hard it broke the suspension.
That was ridiculous. And again.
But isn't it just weird though, right? Isn't it just weird that we had these incidents, we had that one in F2 in Spain, then we had the one in the 2018, where I had all these like mini incidents where the Halo did save the driver's life, yet we never had these before. It was like, and obviously it's like, I just think it's just weird how like it kind of like there was still people shouting about the Halo saying it was ugly, yet these things happen where the Halo did save their lives, and then everyone like shuts up about it straight away. It's just like
the only
timing.
thing I can think about in modern day Formula One that would have like completely saved them, and maybe what they were designing this for was, I think it was Jensen Button in Monaco a few years ago that was hit with a manhole cover. Obviously, it got sucked up on the track. I think that was the only kind of thing I could justify. You know, like if someone asked us who wasn't an F1 fan, if they asked us, you know, what's the Halo here for? What would it stop? As well as a tyre, that's hypothetical because that's obviously never happened in a long time. I could probably only say, oh well, it would have stopped the manhole cover in Monaco.
But wasn't there talks though? Wasn't there talks of when they were planning the Halo, they were testing it? Wasn't there talks of like I think Jensen himself said, or someone, I might be Brundle, I'm not too sure, where said that, well, if the Halo was there, maybe like what if the drain cover hits the inner side of it, sends it off course. You know, it was supposed to be going like, away from the driver, hits it off course and hits Jensen in the face for the Halo. I think that was like the whole the uncertainty of it. But once like I said earlier, those incidents happen, it kind of won people over.
Yeah, once a safety measure saves someone's life, like no
Yeah.
matter like how ugly or like how like bad it's perceived to be, the moment
Yeah.
it saves someone's life, it's instantly worth it.
Yeah, it is. I mean, don't get me wrong. The cars, of course, they look better without the Halo. But at the end of the day, I would rather cars look as ugly as possible just to save a driver's life, rather than look absolutely spectacular and have them killed. I'm pretty sure I'm not. Well, I think most people would agree to that, but there'll be still one or two dickheads who are just like, oh well, the cars need to look racy, and no, they don't need the Halo, and get in the bin.
I think
when
It's a good thing that they're not in charge of the sport then.
I mean, you just
exactly
go back and think about the 1960s when the cars were, and some of the cars that they were actually driving, they were actually sitting right on top of the fuel tanks.
Yeah.
Madness. Like, I mean, like
helmets as well. Helmets Helmets are massive. Like, nobody blinks an eye at helmets now. Helmet is part of racing.
Yeah.
Especially, I mean, you go to NASCAR. Was it not Earnhardt Jr. It might have been actually, but they refused to race with a full face helmet on because he deemed it to be less manly, and it was. But now, wouldn't think twice about putting a helmet on to race.
Yeah,
because it's proven to save lives, and that's great. I honestly think 5 years, 10 years, not even that long actually. Halo won't be talked about because it's been proven already, just like the helmet has. It's like a 5-point safety harness has, and molded seats and
hands
and everything. Yeah. It's honestly something else that people will be annoyed at. Some other, like wheel tethers, for example. Who talks about wheel tethers now? But I remember there being a huge, exactly outroar when wheel tethers were first introduced. But I remember people saying that's not real racing. It's why.
The one thing Formula One fans hate is change. Any change to a car, anything, it's instantly like get rid of it. That the sport's ruined. Like when they change, like the Halo, then they change the logo, then they change the intro music, and all three of them things are like they're brilliant. Like everyone, I mean, everyone like gets over the logo. Everybody loves the intro.
I love the intro,
and it's just like people don't like change, and F1 will change in the next 15 years. Like something will drastically change. Where, don't get me wrong, we are going to like look at it and go ugh. I mean, I can imagine everyone looked at that logo and went ugh, or heard the intro and went, oh my god, what the hell's this? Like what is Formula One now? But then you just get used to it. You just go, well, there's nothing to do about it. You just get used to it, and it's going to be the same for us F1 fans, and it'll be the same for the next generation of Formula One fans. So,
do you know what I think's weird? Like, just on the topic of the intro, what Jordan was saying, the intro music. In the olden, well, not even in the olden days, in 2017, and back, I don't know what that word is. Like before 2017, like obviously when the come up Formula One logo, and then David Croft or whoever would jump on and go, welcome along then to this round of the, and do all of the explaining, and the track would come on, then the grid would come on. I think when I'm watching the old races, and obviously no music is playing whatsoever, and it's just David Croft talking, or someone else, Martin Brundle, or who that other crap one that I don't like, I've forgotten his name. That looks even weirder now. I love the intro music. I don't think I could actually picture Formula One without it. I'm like that. It just looks so, well, I mean, for example, when they're making movies, you think of all the great movies, and this is a big turn, right? But you think of like all the movies, like Star Wars and stuff like that, Indiana Jones, and other things that you remember, Mission Impossible, things like that, James Bond. They've all got very memorable theme tunes because they're dramatic, and that's what this music makes Formula One seem like 50 billion times more dramatic. And if anything, it's a little bit like what we said before about Netflix Drive to Survive.
Imagine your first race, you hear that dramatic music, and then you go and watch France 2019. You'll be very disappointed.
Yeah. But it builds it up, and if anything, it's a little bit like what you said, John, and what we said before. The Americanization of Netflix, of Formula One for these, make it look all Hollywood and all cool and stuff. If anything, it does, because it's like Formula One. Here we go, and then you just hear that, new, the normal, boring, crappy intro that we had used to. It's like, oh, Formula One, great. But then you hear the actual music now, and you're like, oh, it's dramatic, it's cool, I'm getting excited, and
I still think the Chain is the best F1 theme tune.
Same.
Nah.
It was okay. I agree. I like the modern one now. I think it's better than the Sky one now.
Oh, it hypes you up. The new theme. It hypes you up. You're like, oh man, I can't wait for this. And then turn one happens, and you're
it's just, does anyone remember the old? Yeah. Does anyone remember I think it was the old BBC intro for some reason? That's so nostalgic to me. I forget what the name of the song is called, but that for some reason that just sticks out so much.
Just Drive. No, it's not. It's not Just Drive. It's it is the Chain. It is Chain.
Yeah. The Chain. All right. Yeah.
Maybe I don't know, but yeah, that's the one that in the early 2010s, when BBC used to do Formula 1.
Yeah, the Chain.
Yeah, that one.
Oh,
so nostalgic.
It is, yeah, and I think that.
Of course, I like the new one as well.
Yeah, but it's we grew up with that, so it holds a special place, with us. So whenever we hear it, we go, oh, throwback.
Who was I don't know if obviously this is more maybe for people who watched it in Britain, but do you remember the intro to when ITV used to host it?
Oh yes.
That was
good.
The actual intro itself was a bit cringy, like what was actually on it, but the music was actually alright.
The music was good.
Terrible though. Not the intro, the actual. Oh my god, it was so cringy.
Yeah, it is bad.
Some of the graphics that they designed back then, really. I've been watching some clips. I've been watching some football reviews of Euro '96, and obviously that's about 10 years before that ITV did it, but that is just incredibly cringy. They're showing the Dover Hills, and it's like, oh my god, it makes you want to be sick. It's like that with Formula One. They did the graphics were just they did some proper cringy stuff.
Trying to make David Coulthard look like James Bond.
Oh my, James Bond with the man with the bulletproof chin.
that chin joke was going to come eventually. Let's be honest.
And then you had Anthony Davidson, who was just looking like he's trying to be cool, and you're just like, mate, no.
Do you know the person who? This is Sky Sports F1, Martin Brundle. I have so mixed reviews on him because I'm like, he's driven, I think it's about 55 cars. I listened to he's done a Beyond the Grid podcast for the 70 years. So you think they've picked an ambassador for 70 years of F1. It's pretty good. He's driven 50 cars, driven Lewis Hamilton's, Michael Schumacher's, all that. And of course, he drove against Ayrton Senna, the early Michael Schumacher, Nigel Mansell, some of the big names of Formula One. And he was in Formula One for 12 years. But I think in that time, he only achieved a handful of podiums. I don't think he's won. It's a little bit. He's a good guy. He's a good commentator. He knows what he's talking about. But it's a little bit unfortunate, isn't it? 12 years, few podiums, and is anyone sitting on the fence with Martin Brundle? You could write a book about him.
I understand what you mean, but his era. Just remember his era of drivers though. That was almost the golden era of Formula One. The PKs, the Sennas, Schumachers. So there was some pretty stiff competition. At the end, it was always Schumacher, Senna, and Prost that were winning it. In that sort of time, and Mansell as well. So he was in a very tough kind of field of Formula One drivers at the same time. So I still think it's impressive. How long was he in Formula One for? Was it 10 years? Or
12 years, I think.
That's, longevity-wise, he was a quality driver. He drove for some good teams. I think he drove for McLaren at one point, maybe, if I remember correctly. So he drove some, decent teams.
Yeah,
So,
and
like,
to
the
be
argument
fair,
there
there's
was
a part of it that comes into it was his crash at Dallas, or was it Detroit? I can't remember which one it was, but he finished second in one of those, and then the race after, like, because they were both held in America, he broke his foot or something like that, and he never really recovered from that. He couldn't even run properly.
Wasn't that the same with Johnny Herbert? Like he was
Yes, it
he was
was.
tipped to be
Because
like
he had that in the feeder series.
yeah,
he
like
had
he
that
was
massive crash.
yeah, he was tipped to be like like a future star really, and then he had this big crash and then he broke his legs and he was never the same since.
Yeah.
I mean, to get fourth, at that race at Brazil, the first time, his F1 debut, to manage to get like fourth,
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, Brundle was really unlucky with the competition he had. I mean, all the drivers tend to have someone good against them. But I think Brundle at the start of his career, he'd still got Lauda, and there was PK, Prost, Arnoux, all these drivers. At the end of it, you got Schumacher, Senna.
Mansell.
There was always at least 2 or 3 world-class superstars.
And to be fair to Brundle as well, like the only car that he was actually like that was race winning, like a proper race winning car in that sense was the Benetton that he drove in '92, and even then, that partially like the reason that won the race was because because of Schumacher's, like he made the tire gamble, and then later on in the race, Mansell's engine had a misfire.
So that's the thing. Like, could you imagine being Brundle? Like, you finally getting a decent car, and then who's your teammate? Like Schumacher.
A young Schumacher as well, like ready to get ready for Formula One, like his first full season.
Was it Brundle that got out qualified in every single race at one point in his career? I remember him being on some kind of list of being out qualified in every single race or something like that. I don't know if I got that right actually, but sounds familiar.
I don't think he would have out qualified Alio. Well, I think he would have out qualified Alio. I don't think Alio would have out.
He was out. No, Brundle. I mean, like his teammate. Sorry, was out qualified Brundle. Completely like confused you guys. Someone out qualified Brundle every single race. I think it might have been. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like how do you guys feel him as like a commentator though? Because
as a commentator, like he's fairly knowledgeable. And back when like James Allen was there, like I like James Allen as a commentator just because
is he the guy? Is he the guy who I think I keep forgetting his name? Was he like around kind of in Lewis Hamilton 2008 days?
Yeah, he was the one. He was the one that went as no, not that. Oh my goodness me, Hamilton's got back in position again. That's James Allen.
Oh yes,
James Allen.
Oh, I hated him. No, I didn't hate him. I don't hate anyone apart from Jordan. No, I'm Jordan. No, I didn't like him. I thought he wasn't very good. But yeah, just following on Al, that's what you were saying. I was just about to say there. Do we think that Martin Brundle has, in terms of his career, two parts of the two sides of Brundle? Do we think that he's had a better career as a pundit? Obviously since he retired, 1997, I think it was, and then obviously 20 years of the Grid Walk, ITV, BBC, Sky Sports F1. Do you think he's had a better career as a commentator than he has a Formula One driver, or do you still think F1 is it's better than what he does right now?
Well, I think if he didn't go into commentary, I don't think many of us in the newer age of F1 would know who he was.
For sure.
So
the pundit's part of his career has led to him being the person who's driven more F1 cars than anyone else, because he's forever doing the little pieces for Sky where he goes and drives this person's car, that car. He's up to about 35, 40 different F1 cars now.
And I think Karun Chandok he's like heading in the same direction.
Yeah, he is definitely.
I'm sure. I think it was 55 actually. I think it was actually 55 when I was listening to Be on the Grid. I think he said he was 55 cars down. And just quickly, also Lewis Hamilton always takes the mick out of him because he says that every single car Martin drives, he says is the best car ever. So like the MP425 best car ever. MP44.
I saw that video actually as well.
If I was driving every single car and I was like driving this, like the McLaren MP44, then the Ferrari F2004, then another car and then another car, I would keep saying it. This is the best car, because you're not going to go, it was all right, but it wasn't as good as that one. Like, you know what I mean?
Maybe if it was the Life, then maybe you would probably say that.
Or the border.
thing
gonna
is,
have
at
you
the
on
end of
how
the
to
day,
come
like,
out on it.
yeah. Thing is, at the end of the day, like Martin Brundle is a little bit like Eddie Jordan. I'd say Jordan was stronger in this view, as in he would say what he thought. Do you remember Eddie Jordan was massively controversial because he said some whopper things, like Jake Humphrey, who was a bit of a people pleaser at that point, you know.
Oh, the
But, I
elite
mean,
lineup of 2000. Oh, yes, them
I
three
mean, like
legends.
Jake Humphrey would hear something, you know, about a crash or whatever, and he would be like, yeah, I agree. You know, whoever you say is at fault, I agree with. And he would interview someone else and go, oh, yeah, I agree with you, even though it's contradicted what I've said. But Eddie Jordan would stand his ground and he would say who he thought was at fault. And, like, you know, you are not budging. I'm saying it, like, for example, Leclerc's better than Verstappen. I stick by that. That was not a statement, by the way, guys.
Cue
I
comments.
how he came out to be as a team boss, Eddie Jordan. That's just how he just became, you know, because he was notoriously stubborn. Just no, that's just what I say, and that what I say goes. Understood.
He was good. He was good, but he was very autocratic. And as a leader, like, you know, going off what I learned in my A-level sport class, being an autocratic leader means
here we
like,
go again.
There we go.
Go like, you know,
Right,
autocratic means like autocratic means like my way or the highway kind of thing. And again, we talked about this in an episode that's coming out soon, but I'm not going to talk about who it was. We referenced, but like, yeah, he was a little bit. Well, he was very much autocratic, and that can be a downside kind of thing. Maybe more democratic, which also means you have to listen to people. But yeah, it was his way or the highway, and he said what he thought. And actually, Martin Brundle does a little bit of that. You know what I mean? Like, he's not really a pushover in that way. Like, again, like what you were saying, Aldas, I think you were talking about that. You know, was it the Lewis Hamilton, Martin Brundle video, like Monaco review? I think you were on about. Yeah. So in that one, I think he has a bit of words with Lewis about 2016 when Red Bull don't have the tires for Danny Rick, cuts a chicane. Coming out of the tunnel, and I think it's a little bit. He's not arguing with Lewis, but he's having a bit of words about, you know, he should have given the place back, and it did look like a little bit like he was just, you know, he wanted to move on. Lewis wanted to keep bringing it up, but Martin is a little bit like that. He will stand his ground and he will say what he thinks. And on his clip from the 20 years of grid walk, and he shows a few times when he's like, "I'm not backing down here. My view is my view, and you're gonna have to, you know, like it or, you know, get going." Because I'm not moving, you know, I'm not going to budge me. I'm not going to be a people pleaser, and that again, I like those kind of people that have their views.
Curiously linking to what we were talking about earlier, ultimately Martin Brundle's job should be in charge of motorsport safety at the FIA.
Yeah.
Because all of the safety developments that come later, he's been talking about for 15 years.
You know, well, actually, he's the I don't know who's I think he's the chairman of the GPDA. So that was formed in '94 in Monaco, the race after Roland and Ayrton sadly passed away. And I think it was him, Michael, and I want to say Gerhard Berger, but I'm not too sure. So yeah, again, you know, with him in the GPDA, and I don't know if he is now, but yeah, I think he should be more of an ambassador for safety. But I mean, I think he already is. He's always there, you know, to tell you. It comes back to, again, his views, but, you know, he is a good kind of ambassador. Maybe you should take more of a step up.
And the fact that he's driven so many F1 cars as well, like, he can obviously then compare it to, you know, like, you know, situations or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, yeah, he's as a pundit, yeah, he's all right. To be fair, I love his grid walks. I do love his grid walks. I mean, one of the funniest times I remember, right, was when he tried to interview Serena Williams and she just completely blanked him. It's just like, oh my god. I've seen a couple of people in chat saying we should move on, do some more questions. I think you're absolutely right. Yeah, we've been waffling on about the same topic for about the past 15 minutes. So I'm going to come in with one from Twitter. I'm actually going to have a quick scroll through and see what we've got a good one to discuss. So please bear with.
We had some good ones on Twitter.
Oh, we had some cracking ones on Twitter. Where are we at?
Can I just say one, Jordan, that I've got lined up here? So from Charlotte Taylor, who we've had on before for questions, she says, which driver do you think should have been given more time in F1? So for an example, she said Jean-Eric Vergne should have been given more time. So who do you think, you know, maybe had left the sport, sacks or whatever, who should have been given more time in the sport? Anyone want to jump in with that?
Ricardo Rossi.
For goodness sake.
Little plug for his next video.
Yeah, boy, you got to get the publicity up, eh? Now let's actually answer this with people who can.
What do you guys think about? Obviously, he had his fallout with Ron Dennis, and he'd had his bit of time in the sport anyway. But Montoya, obviously, with the whole injury situation, but he was, I mean, he left sort of semi on his own accord anyway, but he was racking up quite a reputation, and I felt like he could have stayed longer. Obviously, he wasn't someone who came in and out straight away, but he looks like someone who could have gone on to bigger things.
He was a quality driver.
I think he just got fed up of some of the politics, you know, like behind the scenes, like just going from like the backdoor dealings and stuff like that. I mean, it's a part of Formula One, but I understand why Juan Pablo got fed up of all that sort of stuff going on behind the scenes. Because obviously there was some like dealings and stuff like that, you know, going on between, you know, you get these arguments like behind the scenes, and sometimes you don't even know about them until like several years later, when you know, like these people that were at the team come out and say, "Oh yeah, this and that happened." You know, let's say on like some of the stuff, you know, like some stuff that I didn't actually know, that you know, like Derek Warwick being offered the contract for Williams for 85 instead of Mansell, but it was because he turned it down that Mansell got the drive instead.
Yeah.
But yeah,
it's ironic that Montoya didn't like all the talk and behind the scenes stuff going on, when many years later in his career you see him being brought into, or I think it was IMSA or whatever, for races one off just to take out the title competition, not to win, just to take him out.
Yeah. I mean, let's ask Meerkat and Dan, because they haven't really spoke much in today. And Meerkat there just said that he hasn't said a word. And then yes, I feel bad for Meerkat. I feel bad for him, and Dan as well. Dan hasn't said much. So used to Meerkat and Dan, what drivers would you go for? Maybe that weren't given enough chance in F1, and maybe could have been on there long enough to maybe be world champion or just be a star. Let's say.
Being called out. How dare you, Jordan?
No, because I haven't heard it say much. I was like, oh, I feel bad. So
well, there was talk of circuits, and I've learned from the last one just to stay away and to keep my mouth shut.
No, that's the point.
That was like half an hour ago, Dan.
That's the point.
But to focus on this question from Charlotte, I would have liked to have seen Van Dorn maybe get a couple more years. I mean, up against Alonso, that was never going to be easy, and the reliability in that car was atrocious. But I can understand why they got rid of him. I think Pascal Wehrlein did a great job in his 2 seasons of F1. I would have loved to have seen him stay a couple more years. But I think Vern, like Charlotte said, he was certainly someone who I think did a more than adequate job up against Daniel Ricciardo at Toro Rosso, and was better than Kvyat. I'm baffled that they gave the nod to get Kvyat up to Red Bull for 15 instead of Vern. I really do think Vern was a great driver, and I think he's proved himself in Formula E. And I don't, also just to add to that, I don't know why no other teams at the time looked at him as an option. I know he moved on to Formula E very quickly, and I suppose he's built a new legacy there for him, and he's technically and statistically one of the greatest FE drivers of all time. But I do think Vern was a driver underrated during his time in F1.
Do you include the other guys in that? Buemi, Alguersuari and Bourdais?
I think Buemi.
Sebastian Bourdais. I mean, he was a guy there's a lot of F1 drivers you don't know about, and he's probably, I'd say, at the top of my list. First time I heard about him was when because he partnered with Sebastian Vettel in 2008 at Toro Rosso, and then after that, just kind of left, I think.
I completely forgot that he was in the 2009 season, because he was in Formula 1 in 2009. I completely even forgot about that.
Yeah.
I mean, he was champ car 4 times, and nobody remembers.
Yeah, he went over to the US and he dominated for a while.
Yeah.
But Toro
One
Rosso
driver that
and
had
Red
the
Bull
light
have that kind of they have that kind of environment where there was a period of about 6 years where they had so many different driver lineups, from Bourdais to Buemi, Alguersuari, Jev, obviously Ricciardo, Kvyat.
Yeah.
There was just drivers going in and out every single other year. It was crazy. So that was just kind of the environment there was at the time, and it hasn't really changed, has it? Because they're still, that's kind of what that Toro Rosso / Alpha Tauri now team is really for. So yeah, it's a very tough school for sure at Red Bull and Toro Rosso and Alpha Tauri, whatever they're going to be called.
I think for me, I think one of the drivers that I'd like to have seen staying a bit longer. Well, I've got two I'm thinking of right now. First one is Nico Hulkenberg. No, I'm just joking. He had way too long. No, the first one I'm thinking of is Pascal Wehrlein. I don't really know much about him. He came from a DEM background. I think he was world champion there, or German champion. And I don't know why. I think he just looked, and to me had a presence of someone who was going to go far. And obviously Germany at that point had a very good pedigree of a lot of drivers in F1. They had Hulkenberg, they had Rosberg, Vettel. And I thought he was going to go a longer way than he did. But he didn't really go anywhere, did he? But yeah, I think he should have had a better chance, especially with a bigger. I think if he was with a bigger team, he'd have lasted longer.
Oh, definitely. To be honest, I think he should have got the Merc seat over Bottas with the tyres he had at the time.
Yeah.
Can I guess the other one that you're about to mention? Because you mentioned you had two.
Yes.
Can I guess that the other one that you're thinking of is Kamui Kobayashi?
That is insane. How did you get that? How did you? What's going on? Are you in my house right now?
No. That's because I'm thinking the same thing. Like, Kamui should not have been pushed out, of F1 at that point. Especially, like, he was doing quite well. Like, even in 2012 when he got his first podium, like, in Japan, and he was actually quite consistent, and he could send it, when he needed to, because he proved that when he did the overtake on Button. But I don't know why he was pushed aside, in all honesty.
I think it was Gutierrez coming in, because obviously in 2013 they had Hulkenberg, who was, totally understandable, great driver, but I think at that point they were trying to push Gutierrez and the Mexican money into Sauber, and then obviously that meant Kamui had to go to, I think it was Caterham or at the time for 2013.
It went to
that or Lotus.
Yeah, he ended up at Caterham in 2014. I wouldn't even wish that on my worst enemy.
What is that because of the shape of the nose? Is that because of the shape of the front wing? The front nose, looks a little bit like what this chat is all about.
Well, that and the fact that it was very off the pace.
Yeah.
A driver like Kobayashi didn't deserve to be a Caterham.
No. I remember listening to Takuma Sato's Beyond the Grid a long time ago, earlier last year, I think it was. And, he'd had a very good run in motorsport in general. And he'd slogged to get to Formula One, but he wasn't given the chance there. And I don't really know what it was. It's just like the Japanese drivers weren't really making it at that time. But when Kamui came in, he, breathed a lot more air into the Japanese love of Formula One. When he went to Suzuka, I mean, as I said, that place absolutely erupted. And when he got that podium, as you were saying there, that really was. I mean, I remember Sauber representatives crying, like they actually were man tears. And obviously, as you said, Jordan, you only cried once in your whole life, apparently. They were like, there was tears. There was more rain coming from them than there was in the entire.
I mean, the Japanese are really passionate, like really, really passionate about anything sport-wise or. Well, I don't know, like various other things.
They were even like chanting Kamui, Kamui, Kamui at the top of their lungs.
That's amazing.
They were just wanting them to see a Japanese driver on the podium. It was almost like a Goody Suzuki all over again.
I mean, that drive alone was enough to keep his seat. If you wanted to do like an interview, or why do you deserve the 2013 seat, Kamui, in terms of driving anyway, then Japan 2012 was just like, wow.
If we look right into, I mean, Max Verstappen obviously definitely deserves to be in Formula One. I'm not saying that, but he's rallied the Netherlands. He owns the Netherlands. In terms of Dutch motorsport, he owns the Netherlands, doesn't he? It's not the Dutch Grand Prix. It's a Max Grand Prix. That's what it is. It's not Zandvoort. It's Max.
Well, that's why they're going there. Cha-ching!
So, in that sense, Kamui could have been the Japanese. The reason why he was in, and if anything, because I mean, Max is loved. So. If Japan got behind Kamui, I think that he could have been like the Max, the Japanese Max, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but he wasn't that level of driver. I mean, at the end of the day, you can have as many fans as you can, but if you're not, Max Verstappen was next level when he came in at 17. There was never. I don't think there even is going to be a 17 as quick as him ever again in Formula One, because they made a rule, of course, with the super license points. So I get what you mean, but Max, the way he just erupted Netherlands, because I think was there even an Orange Army before Max Verstappen? I mean, not really. I mean, there was obviously fans from like Netherlands, but Max
Yeah.
was selling out arenas and grandstands, and now an entire circuit like before the age of 20. So you know,
Yeah.
it's obviously because of his talent. So I do understand that kind of your argument for Kamui, but at the end of the day, talent has to play a massive factor. And Kamui was never on the
I've
level.
just seen, right, for some reason, why has Johnny changed his name to Mortal Mongoose? What? I've just seen. I'm like, eh? What?
Go on, John T.
Yeah,
Don't
I'm
go
just
through it
playing
now.
around. I'm just messing about while waiting.
But yeah,
Big cats-
we're talking about the Japanese drivers here for a moment, and there's a prominent question of why the hell are they not more successful. I've harbored a theory that the reason why is because they send the most insane ones to Formula One rather than the ones that achieve the best results.
Yeah.
Exhibit A, Satoshi Motoyama back in the early 2000s, and nowadays Naoki Yamamoto. You know, they put Yamamoto into the Toro Rosso and FP1 at Suzuka. First time in the car, 0.3 of a second behind Kvyat. And I mean, like, I think Kobayashi was amazing, but a lot of times he let himself down. And that's kind of consistent with a few other Japanese drivers out there. You know, with Sato and Taki Inoue, although that guy was a legend for being that rubbish.
Yeah.
But, you know, there needs to sort of... I don't really understand why the best Japanese Formula One drivers never actually make it to Formula One. But that's just my...
Yeah.
What do I know?
Well, you're the closest to Japan out of all of us. But what I was going to say is Japanese drivers haven't done too well. But what about Italian drivers? Because we have Ferrari, the most successful team, longest team, the passion is incredible. But we've had in terms of Italian drivers, no one's really hit the pace, especially in the modern days. Do you think we're kind of, in terms of the Italian drivers that we've had in, you know, like Liuzzi and Trulli, do you think any of those should have been given more time?
I think they were given their time. I mean,
Truly was given a lot of time.
Yeah.
Maybe more time, maybe at a better team or something. I don't know, like, do you get what I
Wasn't
mean?
Trulli in
You
like
know,
a championship
race
thing
at
for
Monza.
Renault?
We race at Monza. They need to see an Italian driver on the podium.
Yeah, but it's not about country; it's about talent. That's the thing. That's kind of a problem
Yeah.
with Ferrari as well. There's a lot of passion, sure, but sometimes you just need a straightforward head to actually get the job done, and that's the thing. Like, you know, don't get me wrong; it would be amazing to see, you know, Gio or any Italian driver in a Ferrari. But the thing about Formula One is that it lives and dies by the quality of its drivers and the quality of racing that it produces that we love to watch. And that's why it's all about getting the right drivers and just the best in the world and the best teams.
Or
Don't
how
worry, it'd be
rich
great
they
to
are.
have more Italians. Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
Virgil, yeah.
I'd actually love to see a Formula pay driver series. Everyone whoever has the most money gets the best teams. Like, all of them have to be pay drivers. If you've got natural talent and no money, get out of here. It's not for you, mate.
I'm not going to touch the subject with the team football. I've got history.
Can I bring in another question that we've got from Twitter, which I'm really, really excited to talk about if I can?
No, you
this comes
can't.
in from, he's called F1 Fanatic, and then he's got loads of numbers. So it's F1 Fanatic 44/77/63/55/4. Oh, it's all drivers, isn't it? So 44 is Hamilton.
The penny has dropped.
Wow, well done.
Wow.
Thank you. I was like, what's going on
I
here?
wish
You said
my level of
Ferrari.
intelligence was as high as Lyle. Like that's
Forever former style in intelligence. Right, no, anyways. So, F1 Fanatic and then loads of numbers. He says, one rule or regulation what is the one rule / regulation that you would take away from Formula One? And what one rule / regulation would you bring back? So, get rid of one thing in F1 and bring one thing back from the past. Anyone want to start with that?
On Meerkat.
Oh, everyone's chucking it on me. I'm not answering any of these questions because I'm so young. All you oldies remember some old rules happen. I don't know.
How old are you, Meerkat? How old are you?
20.
I'm 23.
I'm 22.
Yeah.
I'm 17.
So old.
What? Who's 17?
Me, Ewan.
Okay.
He sounds
Who's the
40.
who's the oldest here?
I'm
Can we
28.
not ask that question, please?
I was going to say, I know who it is.
The answer then.
I've got my answer.
it's
I feel old at 27, but then I remember Jonty's in here, so it's all good.
Oh.
Let's just hand the conversation
That's
over
true.
to Dan. I haven't spoken. Dan, you haven't talked in a while. Just to hand over
Oh
to you.
yes.
Wow, cheers, mate.
No worries, no worries. I'll back you up.
Yeah, to get it back on track. What a horrible question. I'm not a big fan of the mandatory pit stop, which I know is a bit of a weird one. But I think it's more that I'd rather just see strategy just be completely blown open. Like I'd rather see. I quite liked it when there were loads of different forms of tyres, and there'd be one that could last 10 laps, one that could potentially go the whole Grand Prix. I know it's a bit difficult with cars that can't really overtake at the moment, but that's certainly an element that I'll hold my hands up. That could be a load of rubbish if they got rid of it and opened up strategy like that. But I just think it'd be something quite fun. In terms of bringing something back, I'm not really too sure, so I'll leave that open to the rest of you. Cheers, guys.
No, if bringing things back, I know a lot of people will say refueling. I wouldn't bring that back. I really, really wouldn't. It was dangerous. Don't get me wrong. You put low fuel in a car and you send it out, and it does some absolutely amazing laps. But going back to we talked about safety earlier, refueling, it was just too dangerous. And I know that's sort of the opposite end of the question. What you say, what would you bring back? And I'm saying I wouldn't bring it back. But yeah, no, I'd watch these race replays now, and you see the refueling, and think it's all right when it goes well, it's good, but even now you see how many times that went wrong.
Like your Verstappen's, like flame
Yeah.
stuff. You still get that nowadays.
Yeah,
Like see at the last
absolutely.
Indy 500, like during the race there was like some fire that went on, and the car was still like on fire, like when it was leaving the pits.
Yeah, absolutely. But I know a lot of people will say, or if one Twitter's anything to go by, a lot of people will say bring refueling back, and I really can't see. I can't see it coming back anyway. But even if I had the opportunity to bring it back, I wouldn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense.
But on those lines, there needs to be some kind of rule where they can eliminate underfueling, because that's caused so many boring races where you've just got everyone. Oh, for these next 20 laps, we're going to be pulling around at 80% power because we're trying to save fuel to get to the end of the race. There needs to be some kind of rule where they know exactly how much the engine uses, which they do down to like half a milliliter. And there needs to be also you have to have enough so the car can go flat out the race distance.
The problem is, like, it was almost the introduction of the hybrid era was like the introduction of the conserve everything era, like conserve tires, conserve fuel, everything was lowered. So yeah, it's really frustrating. But I think that's what Liberty Media are kind of, they're pinning their hopes on these brand new regulations to kind of almost undo some of what was done in 2014, but at the same time try and keep the technology and try and keep the motor industry happy. But yeah, they've got a big challenge in 2022 now, of course, with the brand new rule changes. So yeah, they've got a big challenge, and hopefully, I mean, I just hope that it kind of works out for the sake of Formula One, because we just don't get to see the same kind of racing as we did like 15 or 20 years ago, which is kind of frustrating, to be honest.
Yeah.
Something that I would bring back, I've just said about refueling, but something that I would bring back, and this definitely isn't going to go with the reducing costs idea. I would absolutely love a T car again. A team can turn up with 3 cars, and if anything goes wrong, you can jump into that second car.
Yeah.
No, it couldn't
McLaren
work,
Honda would have made use of that in 2017.
A third McLaren Honda. Mate, they need like 5 of those to actually still make it into the race back in 2017.
A spare for the spare.
I always used to think if there was a spare car going, they may as well just have 3 drivers. And I know that obviously eliminate that, because then that's not what you've just said. There's no spare car, but you get what I mean? Because they've made a third car, and then they put all this man hours in it, and no one's driving. It's like, it's quite upsetting. It's just sitting there in the garage waiting for someone to use it. And then
I mean, the 3 cars aspect would solve the problem of not enough talent in Formula One, because then that opens up, like another 10 seats, and then that's another 10 people that could get in and like get a seat or whatever, and that would mean that people like like the people that were looking promising and like lower categories, like like your Antonio Felix da Costas, your Robin Franz and so on, can actually get a seat in Formula One, and they don't get.
It makes the third drivers, because obviously a lot of teams have third drivers, so that means that they could drive in F1. And actually, I meant this. So the only race might be seen this year is the 8 days of testing, and I said Robert Kubica. I was loving what I saw from him. He was driving with Alfa Romeo as a third driver. So obviously, when Gio and Kimi stood out the car, he drove. So if we had 3 drivers, Kubica could be in the car. And of course, I know
that was more down to sponsor, though.
Yeah, true, but it still means that he'll be at the team. And if we do get a 2020, he will be the sponsor. He will be the third place driver, because obviously he kind of almost came with the sponsor. They bought all in, and Robert came with it. It's like buying something at the shops, and then someone's standing there at the cashier going, "Oh, do you want this free CD?" And you go, "Not really." He goes, "Oh, it's free." I'm like, "Oh, fair enough. Then I'll chuck it in the garage."
I think Kubica as well. Sorry, go on, Aldous.
Oh, I was going to say, just the 3 cars debate. Obviously, it's been going on for a long time and it's been considered, but it's just that it comes down to money, because the teams can't afford to run a third car. Like, even now, we're hearing all these rumors of maybe Alonso going to Renault. Can they afford him? All that. How are you going to... Then you're going to have to try and afford another third driver. You're going to try and have to get even more money to afford another third team. And there's a bunch of problems in the pits as well, because most of them are kind of designed to house 2 cars. Then you're going to have to house 3. But yeah, so there's a lot of problems, for having a third car. But it's definitely an interesting option. But I don't know if it's actually like possible in terms of money, because
I don't think it's going to be feasible, like in money terms. It's going to be, because obviously with this, like with what's going on at the moment, with this,
I mean,
like the coronavirus situation, like it's caused a lot of people to there's a lot of loss of money.
I mean,
so it means.
Ferrari can't even conjure up a good strategy with 2 cars. So how the hell are they going to do it with 3? You know what I mean? So that's one big problem for them.
I was
actually surprised this year when they got signs as a good lap dog.
I was actually surprised it took that long to make a Ferrari strategy joke.
But yeah, that is a big problem as well for what all that was saying there. Money as well. Money in Formula One, and it's probably the main reason why we've seen the newer teams as well come into the sport, like the three main ones in 2010, who didn't do well. I mean, they were kind of promised that the cost was going to be reduced, and it wasn't. So they were doomed from the word go, weren't they? But I think as well, it would nice to be seeing like more teams in the sport rather than having like 3 cars, because like the cost is too high, and then hopefully having people in there like the drivers who really do deserve seats in Formula One, because there are probably people on the grid now who don't deserve a seat in F1. People in F1 who aren't in F1 that do deserve a one. I'm mentioning no names.
Go on. Mention some names. Come on.
Go on then, say it.
Oh,
I know who you're thinking. Come on.
Well, Grosjean for starters.
There it is. There it is.
I was actually thinking the S word, but when you spoke, I went aha.
What's the S word?
Spinella.
There's a lot of S words.
There is.
That sounds like an F1 YouTube channel.
Yes. The S word.
Yeah. It's like when you buy like do you know when you buy like a football game, but it's not FIFA, and you got them like really weird made up names. It's like buying like a YouTube channel instead of being
London Town.
Yeah, Tyneside. Good old Pro Evolution.
What is the point of PES? What was the point of PES?
Excuse me, don't you diss PES. PES was better than FIFA back in the day.
Man.
It was. I don't care what anyone says. I will defend PES to the hills.
Tyneside United. I don't even know what they were called.
Magpie Park. Oh, take me back.
I don't think we were called Newcastle. I think it was like
take me back.
Hold on. Are we talking about football here?
Yes.
Oh yes,
we are.
Okay,
sorry.
I'm a New Zealander. I'm out.
You just knew at some point in this mass debate, these two were going to start talking about bloody Newcastle, but we just knew it was going to happen. Like,
sorry.
I'm surprised it took that long. It took for them to start talking about Newcastle. Tut.
No, I think we were talking about Tyneside United, but we're done now. There's no football to watch. Like, so there's nothing to talk about apart from where they are now.
In the tune.
Spending them they are like spending their money. But some of the replays, like, we were an incredible team back in the day.
We were not.
We were. you know. But
Anyways, let's put it back on the racing. Let's go back to racing here before we end up. Before this comes like the Newcastle Masturbate show.
The important stuff.
The important stuff.
What's Hudson Odoi spending his money on these days?
Who?
Have you guys seen that Chelsea? What was this? What's that young Chelsea player's name? Have you seen him?
Callum Hudson-Odoi.
Oh God!
Do you know what he's spending his money on these days during quarantine?
Oh. I think.
Clearly not.
I don't actually.
Okay, don't worry. Read about him. Read about it.
No. Spill the beans, man.
Spill the beans.
Maybe not on this one. He got caught with someone he wasn't supposed to during quarantine.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Just leave it at that.
It's not like I hope it's not like a certain Sunderland in the story.
Or ordering certain people around his house, is he?
Ordering like offline.
Maybe.
Where is this going now?
Get back to racing. Come on.
More questions on Twitter.
More questions on Twitter. I'll find a one. Go
ahead.
I'll find a one.
AFK. If I can go off a Big Bang Theory, I'm AFK. I'm away from my keyboard, wandering around my room with Bluetooth headphones. So I'm not on my computer. So yes, John, take it away.
Oh, here's a good one from the Brothers Hunt, and he says, oh, "What?
I don't know. Well, we all know James.
The Brothers Hunt.
The lawyer. So is one of them a driver and one of them's a lawyer?
Possibly. They ask, I think there's two of them actually. They ask, if you had a brand new F1 team, but you could only hire rookies from any racing series, who would you pick? Let's start with Meerkat. You haven't spoke. You're up first.
Oh my God.
You're up first.
You're going, who should we pick? I feel like I'm back at school. I'm like, don't pick me.
Well, if you...
Is it always let's just pick either Meerkat or Dan, literally?
Well, Meerkat,
yeah.
Right? Meerkat, if you knew anything from school, that's how it works. Like, we had a math teacher and he only picked on you if you did
because
not
he's not speaking, I'm like...
Guys, it's Lyle again, with his higher education.
I was always speaking, but I never got picked on by the teacher, did I? Because I was always speaking.
Only because he would answer it for like 15 minutes.
Or also because we never got to talk about racing at school. If we were about boring science, then of course I wasn't talking.
Exactly. So go on the Meerkat. 2 drivers that you would employ for your F1 team, but they have to be rookies. So they've never raced an F1 before. Who are you picking? Goes to Google.
Give me 5 minutes on Google.
Okay, actually, to be fair, I could probably answer this.
He's found the page, that's why.
Sorry?
I can hear the keyboard.
I was going to say, he's found the page.
Probably go with 2 of the Williams youngsters, actually.
Go on then.
Jamie Chadwick and Jack Aitken.
I thought you were about to say Tictum and Aitken. I was like, okay.
I was having a
Tim's in my lineup.
Is there any reason why, or are they the only 2 that you know?
And based on what you're reading off Wikipedia, does it tell us where they were born?
Where do they live?
It says here, Jamie Chadwick was born on the 10th of April.
So you would have Jamie Chadwick and Jack Aitken.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Okay. Shadow Mac, you said you had yours.
Yeah. So Tictum would be in my lineup. I would have Tictum. He is. I mean, he had that year to get into Super Formula, but
is anyone able to explain to me why people don't like him? Because I've seen something online where it said he had a crash, and I've tried to find it, and I cannot find it anywhere.
Yeah, he didn't just have a crash. He
So, like,
had
he hit
an
someone on purpose
agreement
or
with his teammate. He overtook 10 cars whilst behind the safety
on
car.
the safety car.
Deliberately ram into someone.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, so he overtook 10 cars on the safety car, rammed into his teammate, and then said, "Do it on purpose." No, I would have him. I think he's matured from that, and I think it would be a great redemption story for him. I would absolutely love. Also, I'd love to be the man that says, "Do you know what? Look, got him in of that rags to riches story."
Redemption, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, also, I'd love to be able to say, look, this is your one and only chance. Getting up and fly right, because I do think that somewhere under there, somewhere is a decent driver that can do very well. I mean, I do think he's got natural raw pace. Just needs to temper it in order to do that. But yeah, honestly, I think he'd be quite good. My other driver, and this is heart over head. It was between Schwartzman and Schumacher, and I'm going heart over head because I think Schwartzman probably would be a better driver, but I would love to see the Schumacher name go on. My driver lineup would be Dan Ticktum and Mick Schumacher. Now, I think that Mick got a lot of.
Yeah, but you know the history between those two drivers, because that's just waiting for trouble right there.
That's also why I want the two, because at the very, very least, at least it will be entertaining.
I like that.
Good one.
I think for me, I was considering actually Schumacher, but for me, I think Juan Yuzhou and Robert Schwartzman are probably my two picks. They look really good. Like Juan Yuzhou was a really good rookie last year in F2. I think him and Hubert were like the best rookies of the year for me. And then obviously Robert Schwartzman, what he did in Formula 3 as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Those two would probably be mine.
Ollie, who's yours?
Yeah, I don't follow the feeder series too much, but I know when obviously De Vries decided to go to Formula E after winning an F2, that's quite interesting. It'll be interesting to see maybe him popping up in F1 if he's classed as a rookie, since he hasn't raced in there. And then Dan Ticktum, had a decent chat with him actually with Josh on a previous video I did with him, and obviously he's got his history, but clearly got quite a bit of talent as well. And then I think Jamie Chadwick, for the goodness of the sport, would be quite an interesting one, like Moto Meerkat said. So yeah, I'd say those three. If we're talking about having backup drivers as well, I think that'd be a good little collective. Silent agreement.
Yeah,
yes, I do agree.
What you're hearing is exactly. Agreement by silence. That's a pretty To be fair, I was actually kind of disappointed not to see Jamie Chadwick in Formula 2. Like, I understand why she would want to continue with W Series, but I think it would have been really good to see a proper, because she's been a winner throughout her entire career, and it's not just kind of a push. Like Tatiana Calderon, I think, is a bit of a push to get more females into Formula 1, but we need quality again, and I think Jamie is a really fantastic driver, so it was kind of disappointing not to see her make that jump up to Formula 2. But definitely a great driver. Yet again,
Can I just make a
it's a good point.
It is.
Can I just make a statement, like just a random one? This isn't the answer or anything like that. But you remember
about to tell us
about
another qualification?
You what? No, they're not anything
that's
special.
my joke.
Anyways,
Sorry.
I was gonna say, so Formula 2 World Champion Davide Valsecchi won, I think 2013, 2014, and then there wasn't anything linked with him to go to Formula 1. Then obviously he jumped straight into commentary. Kind of like, what do you think went, like, why not Formula 1 for him?
The thing is that when was it?
He was around for a while before
He
got to.
He was in Formula 2 for a long time, and he was in the noise for a long time. But then as soon as he won, because I'm not saying that you have to win GP2 to go to F1. Of course, many drivers have skipped it, and some drivers have won the GP2 and not gone into F1. But you've won the GP2 World Championship. Why was not F1 considered? And he is Italian, isn't he? Like, again, say Italian drivers going to F1.
Was it 2013 or was it 2014? I can't remember which date it was, but
I think it might have been.
I think it was Circuit of the Americas, where Lotus had to have a substitute for it. I can't remember off the top of my head, but the point is that Davide Valsecchi was definitely in the line for that, but they drafted in Heikki Kovalainen instead, and everyone's just like, why? And of course, Kovalainen went in, and as usual, he was relatively average. It was like, why wouldn't you give Valsecchi a chance here? Especially given how the stringent super license stuff was not really a thing at the time. It just made no sense. Having said that, a year later, they drafted Romain Grosjean and Pastor Maldonado into their side, so, I mean, hey, nefarious things going on with their selection.
I think we'll get to the bottom of that one then.
First.
So is Grosjean going to be a
Oh
title
yeah,
contender this year?
Jack's whatever. Yeah.
What was the Grosjean thing? Someone said Grosjean.
Yeah, what did you tell us?
Just Romain Grosjean, nothing else. Just Romain Grosjean. What are we saying?
The Grosjeanator. The thing is, I was about to say when he was drafted alongside. I don't say he was drafted like NFL. When he was put alongside Pasta, do you think that was a good move or a bad move? Because I'm like, in one side, I can see Roman. He's kind of like he's the older brother of Pasta. You know, like I have to look over this. You know, my little brother or whatever. He's just a real nuisance. Or
He
did
was
it
still a
kind
decent
of?
driver. He got a podium. I remember in Belgium, obviously when the team were
Yeah.
like in massive financial restraints. So that at that point he was still in kind of like the prime or the peak of his career, if you can call it.
'Cause
Like
I've got
it's
the-
really
Yeah. Because I've got a little bit of a feeling that damaged his career. And that sounds weird. And of course, he was at Lotus Renault longer, alongside Kimi as well, before Pasta joined. But I don't know. I just feel like him alongside Pasta, and obviously we all know the jokes about Maldonado, and you know what I mean. Like we joined on with the Grosjean laugh and because he was alongside Pasta, and of course, like Spa 2012 is still lingering around.
just a bit.
But no,
If only-
decent driver. My views on
If
Grosjean, great driver. Well, good. He's okay. He's okay.
It's
You know,
getting worse.
to be
It's getting
fair
worse
to
every
Grosjean,
second.
We'll land on okay.
yeah. To be fair to him, you know, toward the end of 2013, he was like he was legitimately challenging Vettel and the Red Bulls, and at that time you got to think, well, especially toward the end of 2013, it was a joke how dominant they were.
Mhm.
But you know, once he sorted himself out, Grosjean, you know, he's very much like the French rugby team. He could be absolutely amazing, except when he's himself, which is a lot of the time. And you know, it's frustrating. It's kind of the same deal with Pastor Maldonado, because I mean, if you look at his pole lap in Barcelona, I mean, the guy has balls. Like going through the last corner with the DRS open, and he was finding the fine edge with the grip of the car. You just like, Jesus Christ! But you know, when he pulled it off, he was amazing, and he spent a lot of time at the front of the grids. You know, when he didn't ram anything in 2012. So they're both very talented drivers, but you know they have a tendency to, of course, smack into things, which is just a pity, really.
Man, Josh
Pasta
coming through
didn't-
with the Maldonado knowledge. I mean, it's just I've no clue why. He just seems to be so informed about him.
Pasta did win a race. I'm like, I know that doesn't define you. It's like having 100% attendance for one term. It's like wowee, but he did win a race. I'm like, that is.
What is it with you and schools?
Not because I had 100% attendance. That's why.
Of course you did. Of
and
course you
I
did.
did as well. Even through them snow days, I live quite far away from school as well. And even on them snow days, because you know it snows quite heavily up here in the north, I always made it into school, and I never got any recognition for it. But anyways, moving on.
First one
Pasta
through the
won a
gate
race.
as
Like
usual.
I'm like, that will because the thing is right. Williams still haven't won a race. That will not be beaten. I don't think for a very 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 long time. So we could be looking at like decade on since Pasta wins. And he's in Williams' history book as the most recent winner. Like out of all the jokes, out of all the memes, he's still sitting there wherever he is in Venezuela or thinking, I've still won a race. I'm the most recent winner for Williams. And you know what I mean? That's a little bit of a smug kind of like, that's a good record to still have, don't you think, for Pasta?
Well, he's laughing all the way to the bank. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
With that oil money, he's doing all right.
Well, yeah, oil money and inheritance from Hugo Chavez's grave. Yeah, just got to do what you can. Have we finished with the junior? Because I missed it. The junior series.
No.
Dream team. What?
I was just going to say that a lot of you need to expand your motorsport watching. There's so many great series out there to watch and some great drivers. Beyond Formula 1 and Formula 2. I mean, I can't.
There's Formula
driver.
3 and Formula 4. Euro Formula.
One driver I would definitely pick is Scotty Mack. Scott McLaughlin. He seems to have a knack of being awesome in anything he sits in the seat of. And
The name?
good, not awesome. But he's a very exciting driver. He's got that thing where he always makes the moves.
So can you kind of tell me about him? Because I don't know like too much about him.
I was going to say, I think the only people that know him is Jonty and Josh.
Oh, no,
Saying
Josh.
that to a Kiwi, that is blasphemy.
Yeah, he's the
Oh, Jesus. All right, John, to you want to explain, or who's gonna explain the mystique of Scott McLaughlin?
Lyle, you know everything.
I don't,
Go on,
I know
Lyle.
every-
Explain
I
it.
could probably
Oh,
tell
he's,
where you went to
he's on the spot
probably tell you
now.
where you went to school. Yeah, no.
Pressure.
I know
Go to
where he
school
went to
then.
school probably, but
Go on then.
oh well, okay, wait there. What
He's
was he
a
called?
racist.
On Wikipedia.
Awkward.
Can you spell it out? Can you spell
Orphan's
his name
Google.
so I can-
You can't even spell it.
So I can
Okay,
put it
you
into
want me to spell it
Wikipedia.
out for you? Okay, so S.
S.
You do the rest of it. I can't.
Well, no, I'm not now because
Ah.
obviously it's a big joke. So I'm not speaking. So you tell us, Josh. You tell us about this
Okay,
guy.
because
What was he
by
called?
now
Mr.
most of the
whatever.
viewers are just like, what the hell? Well, can they just explain who this guy is? All right, fine. So Scott McLaughlin is the defending V8 Supercar champion in Australasia. Twice a champion now. He's with the Penske outfit here. Extremely dominant.
Born
and
the 10th of
you know,
June 1933, age 26, from Christchurch, New Zealand.
Good for
Finally
you,
remembered
man.
all that.
Wikipedia is an awesome website, isn't
No, this is Lilopedia.
it? Lalapedia.
This is
That sounds like a porn
Expedia.
site.
What?
Oh
Well,
my
you
God.
found this.
That's what I usually use when I'm masturbating.
Obviously, all the time.
How long has he been
Anyway,
holding that joke in?
Sort of down half.
Josh, go for it.
I lost my appetite. So, yep. So anyway, two-time defending champion of the supercars, defending champion at the moment. He went over to test for IndyCar recently with Penske, and he was one of the top runners, as far as I recall.
Yeah.
And highly regarded, basically put in the same sort of category as Rick Mears. But in my honest opinion, when it comes to Kiwi drivers and supercars who really is versed, that can drive anything, Shane Van Gisbergen. Because I mean, you look at what he does, and you look at what he can do with a car. It's just like, my bloody God, like anything. You throw him in anything, and he can do anything with it. Yeah, I mean, there are supercars drivers out there that definitely can perform well, but I mean, like, it's sort of apples and oranges comparing supercars to Formula One. One is the utmost sort of, you know, technologically advanced cars, and the other ones handle like land yachts.
So which one's which?
So I don't know. That depends upon whether you're driving a Williams. But I mean, yeah, and just basically, Scott McLaughlin is one of the best drivers from sort of down under-ish kind of side of the world.
Well, there we go. We'll go.
That's
we'll
the
go with
that's the
Scott
end of
and
the
Dan
lesson,
Dixon then.
people. So where's my fee?
And you're right on the call for Van Gisbergen as well. He's always there. There's a few of those names in Supercar series. They're just always up there. You guys, you really should try watching this stuff. Supercars is great fun to watch.
When's the next
Yeah,
race?
watch it for as well as you can. There's $70 million in debt, so they're probably going to die at the end of the year. So get them more stocks.
I'm always up for trying new things.
Recommendation for the viewers.
Just quickly before we move on, we were talking about how, you know, which drivers we wanted in, you know, to F1, two drivers we wanted to F1. I came in midway through the question or whatever. I think everyone knows who I want in as the driver.
Mahavir Raghunathan.
Raghunathan.
No, what made you think that?
I don't know.
Oh,
Maybe because
sorry,
maybe because
sorry,
there's a
sorry.
T-shirt with his name on it.
Plug it. This is
Yeah,
it.
you
This
enjoying
is the
that,
moment.
Jordan?
What's that?
You enjoying that shirt there?
I'm not wearing it, unfortunately.
Oh, you bastard!
If I was on camera, I would have. But
Just say that you
Oh,
are. Just
dear.
say that you are. I've got it on right now.
oh, sorry. Yes, Josh, I've got it on right now.
Oh, you're a diamond, mate.
Oh, no problem. Hey, anything for you.
Just going on to the serious part of this question. Who would actually have
Yeah.
in there? Mahavi Raghunathan would not even be put in charge of the friggin' truck driving, let alone the actual car driving. So, I mean, it says something when you can't drive with aids on in Forza. That's how rubbish he is. Anyway, so who would I legitimately have in
I
there?
try to live life without AIDS.
Advice to live.
All right, okay.
That came out of nowhere.
What?
Okay,
Mer.
Oh my fucking god.
Jesus.
I told you,
Really
I
bullshit,
joined this
mate.
to chat shit. I do not know anything about Formula One.
No, not me.
Yeah.
Not me. I
What's
don't know.
what's news to us? Anyway, so the two drivers. I mean, obviously Dan. There's a loose connection between Dan Ticktum's brain and mouth, but you know, when he's on it, he's on it. He's one of the most talented, naturally gifted young guys out there, arguably, and it'll be great to see him harness, you know, that sort of attitude which sort of got him into trouble. And you know, my recent interactions with him lately indicate that maybe he has learned his lesson, but then again, he may not have. But assuming he has, it'll be good to see him in there. And then otherwise, I'd love to see Robert Schwartzman get in there because guy's fast. Even if he does wear mafia shirts from Russia, still though, I mean, it'd be good to see. It'd be good to see him in the Formula One seat. There's a few drivers like that, but of course, you know, there's only realistically 19 seats on the Formula One grid, which will become vacant anytime soon. And of course, there's one that will never become vacant.
I wonder who that could be.
That's that second seat at Aston Martin.
Oh, Perez.
We were talking about Romain Grosjean. Oh, Christ.
Perez. No, he's expendable. It's the fruit of Lawrence's loins that will never get rid of that seat.
You just can't wait, tell you, till Lawrence Stroll buys like something that Lance Stroll has no ambition to do. Like he buys a cricket team, and then like Lance Stroll becomes the captain of said cricket team, and he just doesn't care about cricket at all.
The opening bowler and the wicketkeeper all at the same time.
The team of one.
Now, there's one spot I know nothing about is cricket.
No, I don't.
I think there's a ball involved.
Some
to be
people
honest
wear
with you,
helmets.
Kiwis don't know too much about it either. We sent a 3-toed man out there to bat in the Super Over. Well done to
Some people
my
in cricket
jam.
Some people in cricket wear helmets, and some people don't wear helmets. So is it a choice? Do you get the choice to wear a helmet or not?
Yeah, if you don't want to die.
So
That's a pretty
so
easy
why
one,
do why do some people not wear helmets?
Yeah.
It's-
got
if
Why do you
you're,
all wear
for
white?
us,
Yeah, if you're in danger of the 80-mile-an-hour ball hitting you, like the wicket keeper or the batsman, you tend to have one. But you can bat in a cap if you want, if you're just facing a spin bowler.
Same
That's
kind of
like-
protection, really.
That's like when you see people riding bikes around the estate, and then you say, "Oh, they're not wearing a helmet, but they've got a woolly hat on, so they're incredibly safe."
Pretty much.
Listen, Lyle, we know you don't live in an estate, mate. You live in like the high-end, you know, apartments on your kind of knowledge, you know.
The Golden Gate. I've got like football players that live next to us. That's how rich I am. No, I'm joking. I don't really.
He lives in Horton, people. If you don't know where Horton is, Google it.
Brilliant.
Thanks,
right,
George.
so
You've given away me-
Lyle, next
I'm-
question.
What happened to me anonymity, Jordan? You've just given it away, man.
Nobody listens to this from the northeast. Don't be
That's like-
silly.
That's like when I did from a formula. Nobody could know my name. No one knew my first name, and then especially no one knew my second name. If anyone did, you were gone.
Oh
You
god.
get the Forever Formula
Um,
on you. Take you out.
Before we jump into that, let's move on to someone else who hasn't said their lineup. John C, I don't think you've said. Have you said yours? No.
Yeah,
Oh, you did. Oh, you did. I'm not listening. That's why.
Ollie has.
Ollie. No, Ollie did.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
did.
I
I did
Ollie
both.
did. Yes,
I
Ollie
both.
did.
Yeah, I
Ollie
was
did.
just typing as well, but
Then.
I've got to bounce now, lads. So I'll leave you to crack on. But yeah, thanks for having me, and looking forward to watching it when it comes out.
Yep.
Alright, mate. No problem.
No problem
Good
at
to
all.
have you.
All good.
Thank you
Cheers,
very
lads.
much.
See you later, mate.
See you, mate.
See you later.
I haven't done mine yet. I'll have to
Yes,
do
I was
mine.
about to say Dan hasn't done his already. Dan, go for it.
Yeah, well, I was kind of waiting for Josh to mention Nick Cassidy. To be honest, I thought he was going to jump on that straight away.
Yeah.
But
But honestly, there's a lot of drivers that honestly could have a shot at Formula One. This is the thing. Like, if you were to say who should be given a shot in Formula One, I mean, there are dozens really that deserve a shot.
Yeah.
Will they be great at Formula One? We won't really know until they've had a chance. But, Nick Cassidy's part of that lineup, but it's hard out of all the potential candidates to choose just two.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say, the two that I'm going to go with are Sam Bird and Antonio Felix da Costa, mainly because I just want to bring in Formula E. They've both done so well, but Bird had a really good junior career as well. He was second in GP2, I think in 2013. And like Josh says, though, any of these drivers we've just mentioned, they could jump into Formula One and be great. They could jump into Formula One and be a bit meh. But I think the way they've transitioned to Formula E, the way especially Bird, since Formula E's first ever season, has compared up against the likes of Verne, Buemi, I think he would do quite a strong job. But I also liked I would have maybe liked to have seen Matt do another season of F2. Maybe he would have been good for Formula One as well. I'm not really too sure, but I think any of the ones you've all said so far are pretty good. And Jack, what you've put in the chat as well, Juju Noda, in a couple of years, definitely that's not a bad shout either. But like Ollie,
I don't know. It's risky with that one because we haven't really seen her in proper competition yet. I mean, this year was bound to be the first one in Danish F4, and that's that's the white wine spritzer of friggin' racing competitions. So I mean, we won't really know until she goes up into legitimate competition. We can't get too ahead of ourselves with Juju here.
Yeah, the Juju, there's definite potential there. That could be an absolutely amazing swan song. But I mean, could an F1 see what happens?
I haven't said mine, so I'm going to just quickly jump in with mine. Nick de Vries, definitely. I was a massive fan of him when he was in the McLaren Junior program. If anyone's ever watched Tuned, which, if you haven't, you're not an F1 person, then he was incredible on that. Second man, I'm gonna say him just for the reason I like his name, and that is Luca Delatraz. Oh, I love that name. That is so class. Delatraz, do you not realize that's such a cool name?
I like it how people have digested.
The last time the Delatraz was in Formula One, I didn't go to. That was not a nice experience.
I can't remember. I'll have to look it up maybe, but I'm still saying him because I love that name. It's mainly de Vries, so
it's mainly de Vries. Really quickly, Lyle, I've got to say, I love that your choices are based off number one, how their name sounds, and number two,
I was
on Tune.
I was gonna say everyone digested as to why this driver should be in my team, and there's Lyle. Oh well, one name's really good and one's from Tuned.
You have to admit it, Jordan. We love Nick de Vries, and I always remember about.
Hi, Prof.
Gosh, this was a few years ago. This was about 2014, I think. I remember I got a Facebook notification from you, and you tagged us in something that said Nick de Vries, and this was the first time we'd ever heard his name since. We thought he was a made up.
I thought he was. I'll get my words on. I thought he was made up.
I did.
Then I was like, what?
His character. Oh my god! Honestly, I might have to watch this afterwards. That episode is hi, Prof. Oh man. Oh, nostalgia. Tuned was amazing. Why are they not making any more Tuned? Literally, they've got this season, Lando and Carlos. And then next season, Lando and Ricciardo. That has got Tuned written all over it. Don't you think?
Are you planning on
but you got to
bringing
remember that at the time they stopped doing Tuned, they stopped doing Tuned, there was a lot of things wrong with it. Making an animation series was the least of their problem.
It's probably the main reason what led to their downfall, just saying.
Yeah, because in 2012 they put all of their eggs in the Tuned basket, and then 2013 for an amazing season 2, which was 50 years I think. Obviously they were going through all the world champions. It just fell apart. That was terrible. I didn't like season 2, and also Checo Perez. I mean, okay, fair enough. You're an F1 driver, and you're not. You weren't brought up as an actor, but come on, his acting was his voice was probably one of the worst I've ever seen in anything ever. In that. Oh, you must be joking, man. Oh man, it was terrible.
Yeah, I thought that was.
I'm just so confused right now.
I thought that was Perez for a second.
Oh man, I want to be a spy. Oh come on. And also, whoever said they don't know what I'm talking about, you should do. And you need to watch it. Toon Series 2, oh, it's class. No, Series 1 was better, but, Series 2 was still good.
When did it finish? I can't remember.
2013. So it was 2012 and 2012 was the best season, Lewis and Jensen. And 2013 was the last season.
And look who became team principal at McLaren the year after. And you wonder why it went. Eric, the most boring man to ever appear in Formula One, Boulier.
Yeah, I second that.
Long ass name.
It should have been Alexander Armstrong. They should have brought him in. They should have thought we're going to promote M to team principal in real life and brought in Alexander Armstrong. Take him off pointless and put him in the McLaren.
Well, on a random note, I've just seen Louis Delatraz has won the F2 Virtual Grand Prix.
Oh yes.
On the weird subject that we were just talking about him as well.
Yep.
Hopefully it was actually him this time.
it was like Lewis Hamilton helping him out or something. How is everyone enjoying the virtual kind of Grand Prix? And since I've just mentioned that, because we've got one today as we're recording this, Monaco, that's going to be carnage. And obviously I've seen a couple of carnage races on Dan's lobby, which actually on randomly Dan had to leave. He had to leave, so obviously he's not here. So thanks, Dan, for coming on. How is everyone enjoying the virtual Grand Prix? And are people watching them, or are you just like? Because at first I was not bothered in the slightest. I was just like, nah, I'm not fussed by it. It wasn't until like I think it was the Bahrain one or the one after that where I watched it and I was like, actually this isn't that bad. And I've watched everyone since. So how are we are we on the virtual Grand Prix then? Obviously, they're not like they're not racing, of course. But I mean, are people watching them?
Yeah, I'm the complete opposite to you, mate. I watched the first couple, and so I like when they were announced that they were going to do them. I was like, oh, awesome! That's going to be so good to be able to see them not actually racing in real life, but being on the console. But then I watched the first few, and I was like, these actually suck. Like these are so boring. And then I haven't watched one since after about the second one.
Yeah.
I do like how footballers and stuff have got involved, like Sergio Aguero did Spain, for example, and Courtois, he's been in most of them.
I mean, Louis Fonzi's doing this one in Monaco. Like, what?
Oh, bloody hell. I think other people from other sports are doing them, which is good. And my favourite Olympian, Sir Chris Hoy, did Bahrain in Red Bull, my favourite team. So I was like, that is incredible. But obviously, I think he DNF'd or something really at the back. And then I agree with, I don't watch them because they're just online races. I mean, yeah, they're entertaining. Of course, I'll flick over and like, what was the last one? I think was it Brazil? I think
Brazil.
Albon won the race. I think. Yeah, I flicked over and caught a little bit of it, and obviously here and there and stuff. But real racing,
all right.
Real racing takes precedent, obviously.
Oh, absolutely. Of course, racing is anything. Nothing will be better than racing. Whatever it is. Of course, real racing will be great, but that's nothing we can come of. Actually, yeah. Let's go on. Let's go on to real racing, and when we'll get started. Is everyone confident that we'll get back underway in July, or do you think it's good? Do you think it's a very, very slim chance it'll happen?
No way. Too early.
Too early.
Push back. Yeah. The way that, I mean, again, I don't know too much about like the politics of Germany, but obviously we know that Germany as a country have handled the coronavirus very, very well. And that's led to the reason why they have been able to restart the Bundesliga. And actually, you've got to say the games are pretty decent. I mean, it's just football at the end of the day. There's no fans, but I mean, it's not it's not a big thing. It's not dangerous in any way. It's good. It's good that football is. So that being said, and again, as I said, I don't really understand too much about it, but there's been talk of Hocken possibly taking over the British Grand Prix, or at least I think now just entering the calendar. I think that's a good chance. Just in all ways, shape, form, just because of how I've heard they've done it well. They've handled it. People have taken notice of the lockdown and stuff, and obviously they're kind of almost as the Bundesliga starts. So I'm confident that we could be going to Hockenheim, and possibly more than once this season. What do you all think of that?
We just
Silverstone's not happening.
Yeah, Silverstone, no way, because the government has said they're not going to make any exemptions for motorsport. So they're saying like Austria the 1st of July, but like how are the teams going to get there with all these restrictions? How are they going to travel from race to race? It's going to be, I'm not even sure. I'm surprised there's even Formula One before the summer break, to be honest. All the races need to be in Europe.
until things are 100% back to normal, especially in aviation and travel. Because if we stay in Europe, all the teams are based in Europe. Even Haas, they're based in Barcelona, I think it is. So we can all drive and stuff.
They're actually based in the UK, which I never knew. Like,
I thought they
Yeah,
were
they're
based in
based in
Barcelona.
Banbury.
yeah, Banbury. Yeah, when I was looking at, because I thought I'm sure they had a base in Spain when they first started, but then when I was
Barcelona, yeah.
I was doing some research for something, and it turns out, yeah, they're in the UK, and I was like, oh, never knew that. Random
Because when I
note there.
when I wore my hat,
I think
When I
they
wore
were
my
out
hat
of
shirt.
Mauritius thing, like their old base.
wow,
What we seen,
I
Lyle?
didn't realize that.
Yeah.
What were you saying, Lyle?
Was saying I forgot now. But yeah, just talk about Germany, and also just going off the back of that, because I actually didn't realize that. It was Aldo, I think, said it. Is Silverstone officially, like, not the what disconfirmed? Are we not racing at Silverstone now? Has it been confirmed we're not racing there?
I mean, realistically,
Yeah,
because if there's
but
no
not,
exemption made, it doesn't matter.
but not 100% though.
No,
The track itself has said we can host 2 races, but the government has said that there's not going to be any exemptions made for people to travel into Silverstone, because there's a lot of people that have to travel from different parts of Europe into the UK to even get to the races. So yeah, it's very. I don't even, to be honest, if they actually get the season running by the 1st of July, I am going to be shocked. Quite honestly, I think it's going to be like a massive surprise. I do just really quickly want to say, actually, I'm afraid I have to go, guys. This has been very my first ever masturbate with a bunch of different guys, so it's been very fun. But I'm afraid I've got to go.
I'm sure it has been
sorry,
the
Lyle,
first time, Aldas.
I didn't mean to roast you too much, Lyle, but you know, it's just someone had to do it. Someone had to do it.
It's no problem. Well, if you take this notice, Aldous, I don't believe this is the first time you've masturbated with guys. I believe you've done that a lot more before. So there we go. You can go now.
Wow, you really had
What
to
a
go there,
send-off.
didn't you? Unbelievable. Well, I'll see you never. See you later,
Oh
guys.
no!
Bye-bye.
Please come back on the channel, Aldous.
please, what on the channel?
Oh,
Oh my God.
That has gotten even worse.
Right, I'm gonna leave before this gets any worse. I'll see you later.
all right, mate. See you a bit.
Where bro, see you.
Actually,
Lyle, I
Jordan,
hate
we've never talked about why you came up with the idea of the name of this episode 2. So do you want to tell everyone why and how and what it means to you?
He's away.
The name.
Either way, so he knew the question was forthcoming.
Oh dear.
I thought you came up with the idea together.
Well, Jordan's gone. No, you did.
Wasn't it Motormaker who thought up the thing? Was it you, man?
Well, I
It was
thought
Jo-
up of the original Masturbate, but I didn't think of the second cut.
Jordan came up with the it's coming bit, which I thought was, decent. Of all decent. No, I'm
Jesus,
joking.
so many
Very
ways
good.
that you could do the 30th episode. Oh.
Is
Three
Jordan
way.
still there? Oh no, he's gone.
So
yeah,
anyway, let's what, is
I
there
was
another
gonna
question,
say-
or we run out?
If I could jump in quickly, I was just going to say I've heard from some inside sources, breaking news,
wow.
that apparently if the Silverstone and because obviously BRDC own Silverstone, and
Yeah.
if BRDC don't get to run the Silverstone Grand Prix this year, they're going to have lost so much money that they will have to fold and they'll have to sell the circuit.
Wow, crazy that. I did learn that a few years ago when I was working at the track. I did learn that the British Grand Prix is actually not government funded, and it's actually one of the only tracks in the world on the
Yeah.
current Formula One grid that isn't government funded. And that's why there's been talk for a very, very, very long time about having moving up from Silverstone. So Brands Hatch, Donington still won't fix the problem, but because the British government aren't paying for Silverstone, obviously, all the money that they hemorrhage is theirs. When of course, like Monza, for example, paid for by the government, Belgium government, things like that. So
Exactly.
but Germany,
Anyone
though,
got Roger Penske's number?
are we thinking Germany is going to be on the calendar? And also Hockenheim as well. Like, I saw a lot of people when they commented under like the Facebook posts and things like that saying, I don't care. There's going to be no fans. So I really could not care in the slightest. Would you care? Like, you know what I mean? If the circuit changed from Silverstone to Hockenheim or anything to Hockenheim, like, do you care about the circuit even though there's no fans?
I think the paramount thing is getting the racing season back underway for the good of the sport and the survival of a lot of the teams. So whether that's at Hockenheim or whether we have a full season at Paul Ricard, even if we have to withstand that torture, you know, the important thing is we get the season back up and running again. So if we go to Hockenheim, so be it. And realistically, that's sort of the more realistic sort of thing here.
Yeah.
The likely it's 99.9% sure with an added 0.1% chance of possibility that Silverstone's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So I mean, just got to have to almost accept that. Mr. Pringle is, oh my god, there is optimism, and then there's what he's feeling right now. Like it's just not going to happen, unfortunately.
Yeah. Will be a massive shame, but yeah, just racing, get back to normal. I think.
When
it's just gonna
actually
really,
will be
really
the first
strange.
time that we're going to have an audience at the venue? When would be that? When would there be that? Like, because it's definitely not going to happen anytime soon. But
Yeah.
when would it happen?
I don't know. To be honest, I was thinking about this the other day. Maybe I know this sounds really weird because we have a long time from here to December, for example. But maybe it's just best that Formula One makes a call between, like, in the summer break, for example, and just says, right, there's going to be no fans for any single race this year, and then we're going to start back in Australia. Like 100% attendance in Australia. Back to normal. Maybe that would help them instead of messing on. Because I've seen in other different leagues that have get started, some of them have just said for this whole season, obviously depending on what it is, like football season, basketball, whatever. We're just going to do it without fans for the entirety of the season. Don't mess things up, and then start up again next season. So, do you think if Formula One said like no fans from here to provisionally Abu Dhabi or whatever for the 2020, and then in 2021 we're just going to be back to normal?
It's a lot of optimism being thrown around, really. Oh, I mean, hey.
I mean, the problem is the situation is just so fluid at the moment, just because it can change like all the time. I mean, this whole like coronavirus situation is just really unpredictable. Like we don't know what's going to be happening next, because this could potentially last, for like months down the line. Like we don't know when the season's going to be back underway realistically. I think a lot of the time, like people saying, "Oh, we're going to have it, for July. We're going to start the season back up in July." I think that's a bit of wishful thinking, to be honest.
Yeah. Just to break in here, just seeing on the chat here, Jack Chambers leave, so his internet's messing up Discord. So obviously, thanks for being on, Jack. If you're listening to this, and he's also added at the end just to say that Paul Ricard is better than Suzuka, or on the F1 game. So maybe that was all. Maybe that was the twist that we were waiting for after episode 1.
Josh,
But
thoughts?
Yes, Paul Ricard better than Suzuka. Yeah. I just don't know. It's hard to digest that kind of. What happened to you as a child, mate? Jeez.
Is this on the game? Because I know that I can say that when I was younger on the F1 game, the hard circuit I would just skip, and that includes Suzuka. But now, of course, I do Suzuka and I love it, and I think it's one of the best. I don't just think it's better than Paul Ricard. I think it's one of, if not the best circuit on the grid. I've never been. I would love to go. That's taking out also Japan, like being loyal fans and stuff. Even just an empty Suzuka would be incredible, and I think it would be an amazing test. Yeah.
It's just a freaking. I've been to Fuji and I've been to Suzuka.
Yeah.
I mean, Fuji's like the standard sort of, not necessarily standard, but it's been tilkied. Like it's wide. It's it's a good track. Don't get me wrong, and the undulations are a lot more exaggerated in real life. And the grandstand at the front straight is freaking massive. It just goes on forever and ever. Great facility. And especially if you look at the old oval banking, like that was nuts because unlike Daytona or Talladega where you climb up the banking, you drop down into it, and all that was separating you and the woods on the other side was just a little guardrail. And if you went over that, well, you better start praying to whatever god you believed in because very soon you were going to meet him.
Yeah.
But Suzuka, that's old school. Like, I mean, when you're down on ground level, you're looking into turn one. You can't see anything. Like, it's just a narrow tunnel, and you're like, how do these cars fit on this circuit? And by the way, sorry if I'm speaking so friggin' faintly here, but it's 4:30 in the morning, and I've got flatmates either side of me sleeping.
That's
But
not a problem, right?
it's just like the undulations as well. The elevation change is actually more
Yeah.
exaggerated than Bathurst, and that's big. Like, it's just crazy how it really is one of those circuits that just has so much character. And you go there and you're just like, my God, this is amazing. So the overtaking opportunities are not great, obviously. Realistically, the only overtaking opportunities without DRS. Not to say turn ones are possible, but realistically, turn one's not really that great an opportunity. There's the hairpin.
Especially on lap 1 in 1990.
Oh, yes.
Well, I mean, I think we all knew Senna's intentions there. It was just like, okay, you're coming with me, Alan.
Whether you like it or not. I mean, I was mainly
It's,
joking about that, but yeah.
I mean, like, I'm a big Senna fan, but far out, like that was, what was worse, 1989 or 1990? Because Prost was different. He was not on the racing line. We all knew what he was doing, but the same can be said about 1990. They're both equally as bad, but I think the 1990 was worse because, Prost's crash was at a much lower speed, but back in 1990s with those cars at that corner, and as I said, that corner is a lot narrower and a lot shorter runoff when you're actually there. That would have been scary to be thrown off the circuit of that area of the circuit, you know?
Exactly.
So, I mean, honestly, we could say that Senna's a great driver and everything like that, and that'd be fine. But what happened in 1990 was disgusting.
I think it was sometimes I look at it and I think it was a little bit of payback, because obviously in 1989 Senna went on the inside, cost Prost the win. I've forgotten who was going to be world champion. I think it was going to be Prost in 89 and Senna in 90. And they cost each other. I don't want to say payback is in like a proper immature thing, like, okay, like I just targeted it for the reason for that, like for example, like how Verstappen went to punch Ocon in the Parc Ferme waiting room. It wasn't like done 100% intentional, because obviously Senna wanted to finish the race in both years, 90 as well. But it was a little bit of a payback kind of move, and we all know Prost, even though he was a cool head professor, was a little bit sneaky like that, and mind games and a bit immature, if you like.
Yeah, well, it's all ancient history. Yeah, so Ewan, go on.
I was just going to say silence is a loud reply there, because it was going to be one of those times where we get silence for about 10 seconds and nobody says anything.
Like, hey, it doesn't matter what you answer. Like, either way, you're gonna piss off about 200 million people, whatever answer you.
Yeah.
Was it not like just more down to protest in the sense that the pole position was changed for Senna in Japan?
It over to the right hand side, which is the dirty side of the track. And sure enough, Prost got the lead.
I mean, I was going to say, wasn't that always on the left-hand side anyway, like on the track?
Mm-hmm.
I think it was the move to get it over to the right-hand side where it should be was not possible. Like, it didn't work, and that's what happened. I mean, the only issue that I really have with the whole thing was that it was just like the speeds are probably greater than 90, 89. Both incidents were pretty bad, but I would say probably 90 was worse just because the speeds involved were higher, and there was probably a more likely scenario that one of them was going to, like get injured or perhaps killed. Thankfully, nobody wasn't, but
yeah. Yeah, no, it was. That's what kind of like lost probably a bit of respect for Senna in the sense that he did that, and it's like, well, you're just as bad as Prost to what he did the year before, so it's like that makes you both just as bad. But I mean,
mean, all tribes back then did some nefarious things. I remember there was an interview with Nelson PK, and the interviewer was asking him, "So between you, who's better, you or Senna?" And PK replied, "I'm alive." And like that's one of the darkest answers I've ever heard.
What did he
given.
say? Sorry, you cut out there. What did he say?
So there was the interviewer asked PK, "Who's better, you or Senna?" And PK replied, "I'm alive."
Oh my god.
Oh.
Wow. That is terrible.
Oof.
Wow.
So, and especially PK back in the day, he did not give a shit about anything. Like,
Yeah.
he was an interesting character. And then, of course, there are other drivers up and down the grid who are just doing some random weird crap. I mean, you were asking earlier about who should have had more time in Formula One. Stefan Beloff. But the thing is that he was a maniac. And I think that was one of the reasons why he was so fast is because he didn't give two flying shits. But, arguably, he would, had he not done so much naive bravado going into Eau Rouge, he probably would have still been alive. But, that's sort of ancient history, I suppose. What could have been, And I mean, hey, Ricardo Rodriguez back in 1961, 19 years old and signed up to Ferrari back in the 1960s. I mean, that gives you an idea of how much they looked at him as a prospect.
Yeah, his first race was like overshadowed by. I mean, his first race was Monza 61, which was of course the same day as the Von's trip accident when he died, and obviously 15 spectators as well.
Obviously,
of course.
Like I've went to see that footage, and like once you go and see that footage, you really wish you hadn't.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen images. I've never seen the actual footage. The photo I've seen was obviously when he's going up the embankment towards the fans, and that's the only bit I've seen. I've never seen the actual footage of the incident.
Footage you don't want to see, actually. 1977 South African Grand Prix, Tom Price's incident, like that was just.
Oh yeah, that was horrific. Just getting hit in the head with a fire extinguisher.
Oh,
because it hit him in the head, and it flew up over the grandstand and smashed into a car in the car parking lot.
Bloody
hell! You know how heavy those fire extinguishers are.
To go that far as well. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
It was brutal back in the day.
Different time. For sure. Anyway, this is getting dark real quickly.
I was going to say, this is getting dark. This is getting dark, isn't it? It's supposed to be
I remember
just this on, shall we?
I remember when me and John went to the Force India tour back in 2017. And we were obviously, happy, having a fun time. I remember there were some Italians on an hour tour, so we were joking around saying like they were Ferrari spies and stuff. They obviously weren't. And like, we were having a great time talking about Hulkenberg and whatever. I forgot who was driving for them then. Blah blah blah. Hulkenberg, was it Ocon, Perez? Anyway, whatever. And I remember we then started, unfortunately, talking about the tragic race of Japan 14, and it really just brought everyone's mood down. And you're like, this is supposed to be a fun tour, and it's just really not now. But yeah. Anyway.
Bringing it on
was
to
there any other
lighter, I was just going to go over one question. What's everybody's favourite helmet design of all time?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Ooh.
To be honest, I think Lewis Hamilton's first. Oh, of course, Senna. But I think Lewis Hamilton's helmet. I think when he was younger, like in McLaren days, you were like, oh, it's good colours, and then I think when you kind of realise that it was a tribute to Senna, you can start putting a resemblance to that. I wouldn't say it's my favourite. I'm just saying it's nice. Obviously, yes, Senna is very iconic, but
I think I remember like Vettel's crash helmets back in the day, like 2012, 2013. Some of them were absolutely beautiful. One of my favourite ones from him. I mean, obviously, I don't really have like a special like crash helmet, the one that's like favourable to me, but the one I really liked was the blue one he wore at the start of the 2013 season.
Yeah.
And because I'm a big fan of the color blue, and that for me stands out. And there's a one he had. Was it a wooden theme one for one of the races?
Austin, John.
That was
I was about
nice.
to say that one. It was like a Texas cowboy theme.
Yeah.
And obviously with and it was lovely. But then they changed the rules that you could only have like a 3 helmet design or something. The lift that when something, for example, like Nicky Lauda, a tribute to Nicky came around last year at Monaco. But yeah, I think it's only like 3 designs now. But yeah, I mean, in the olden days, you could change it as much as you want. Do you remember the 2012 Sebastian Vettel Singapore helmet, the one that had
the lights
it
in
wasn't
it?
light.
Yeah.
And
the helmet.
That was weird. On the onboard footage, that makes it look so weird.
I've got to say, apart from his current one, I don't remember any of Seb's other helmets because they were all completely ruined the same way every single tour. Red Bull driver's helmet is ruined by being 3/4 Red Bull branding.
Yeah.
I know they're going to have all their sponsors on there, but every single helmet is almost identical. Really bugs me.
I mean, my favourite one is Elio De Angelis's helmet, the one with like the red and the dark blue stripe going all along the back, and it was interesting. Like Jean Alesi ended up taking inspiration from that.
Yeah.
It's just because of it's so simple,
Mm-hmm.
Simple but effective. I can't say I've seen it, by the way. I can't say I've seen that one.
I like Jensen Buttons. Again, I can't remember which period it was and which races, but he had obviously it was before. I think it was around kind of his Bro and early McLaren days. He had the Union Jack helmet, and I was just like, that's perfect. It wasn't full Union Jack. For example, like Anthony Davidson's looked very kind of ketty and like mid-90s and like horrible sickly. It was just like a nice kind of half of the helmet was Union Jack and the rest was just like his personal colours. That looked nice. I just like patriotism helmets. I really, really do. And like, so for example, like when Nicky had his red, white, and his red, white, red helmet, for the Austrian colours. It's like that's all you need, really. And then again, like Johnny said about Sebastian's helmet, when he went to Ferrari, it was all start again, white helmet, and just with the traditional German flag colours on him. And I was like, that's perfect. I love patriotism flags. Like I do like them.
Oh, that actually does look nice.
Like one-offs that got a bit more character to them. I loved Heikki Kovalainen's Angry Birds helmet.
Oh yeah, that was good. Yeah,
that was awesome.
I forgot about that one actually. I'm trying to think.
And honestly, for the banter element to it, when everyone was going on about Lando Norris's bucket hat, Sean Galile's KFC. Well, I've got a bucket helmet.
KFC bargain bucket helmet.
Yeah, it was absolutely superb.
Yeah.
That was nice.
I'd probably go with Juan Manuel Fangio's helmet. That's a classic.
Is that
all wood finished? Beautiful.
It's probably realistic.
James Hunt, for example, I can't really think of anyone else, but I'm sure there was. James Hunt just had James Hunt written in it. It was white text, black helmet, and he had a few colours on the side. Do you think they looked good? I mean, that was a standard, efficient helmet. Like again, you knew who it was. But do you think that stands out because it was quite bland, just his name? Or do you think that looked really quite good? And if you remember Kimi Räikkönen, he wore that 1 year for Monaco when it was like an anniversary of something for James Hunt, and obviously his favourite driver was the Playboy is James Hunt. So did you like James Hunt's helmet? Well, then the helmet that just had the name of the driver on it.
They were easily identifiable, but I don't think they were great as designs. I mean, Hunt did it. I think Dan Gurney did it. Lauda did it.
Yeah.
So there's quite a few who did it actually. Now I think about it.
Yeah.
I mean, I do like when Fernando Alonso was at Ferrari. I liked his crash helmets. The whole light
blue helmet.
Light Oviedo kind of colours.
And then against against the red of Ferrari, it was a nice contrast. Like sort of with the same with like Massa's.
Massa's was nice. Yeah, it was like a patriotic colours as well, but obviously and as well, like that was the time when I was growing up in Formula One, so like those crash helmets, and same with Lewis Hamilton's when he had the yellow one for McLaren. That's like it's a big standout one for me, and maybe Mark Webber's to an extent when he had like the yellow on the top and he had like I mean, it wasn't exactly like like amazing, wasn't as good as the other ones I mentioned, but again, the whole that's what. When I think of Mark Webber, that's obviously in a race car, that's the little yellow bit at the top that I really remember.
Yeah, I like Lewis Hamilton's 2012 Thank You McLaren. He had actually Lewis has had some pretty good ones coming into Brazil, but I remember that one had like the Brazilian colours on the side, then it had the Christ the Redeemer statue on it, and again he's had that for quite a few ones. Lewis Hamilton also for the 3-time world champion, 2015, I think it was into 2016, he had 3 stripes for 3 world championships. I think that's when he just come out with his monster drink. That looked really, really good. He said if designed it, like a white helmet with the kind of beige 3 stripes that came off it with the stars. It looked pretty decent, that one.
Any other questions from Twitter?
I think there's actually one from Instagram. I seen it.
We'll be right back after this break.
I think we've been going for quite a long time.
Better start work, actually, ironically.
Oh, come on. Both the questions on Instagram.
Podcast has been brought to you by Fair Effects, soon to be known as Equals.
Oh my god, that was incredible. What is going on? The 2020 race season will go ahead, and that advert will still be on, and they'll still be so soon to be known as Eagles.
There was still.
By the way, as YouTubers, I feel like once that day actually happens, when it is Skies with F1 brought to you by Equals, we all have to make a video like breaking news, guys, Equals.
Oh yeah, that'll go down well, won't it?
That'll be trending. That you'll go on Twitter and it'll be like Donald Trump will be number 1, and then number 2 will be Equals. Number 3, Boris Johnson. Go to work, but don't go to work.
But this has been fun yet again, and I look forward to the next one whenever that is.
Yeah, it's been good.
Can't wait.
It's been good.
It's gonna be awesome.
It's been a good laugh. Love getting like people together and just having a good laugh. It's really enjoyed it.
Oh man, I've either got to move back to England or something because I can't keep on doing that.
You didn't have to come on, Josh, if it was too early. Because that,
because I like the publicity and the attention because I'm an attention-seeking little troglodyte.
Well, somebody just purchased. Jack Chambers before he left, he actually purchased one of your.
I wasn't expecting that.
He did.
Items. Yeah.
I honestly wasn't expecting it, to be honest.
So there we go. How's your clone? How's your clothesline actually going, Josh? Like just on a.
To be honest, I'm really not sure. It's really up there for people who want that shit, But all the stuff is so much easier to manage when this becomes full time next month. It's going to be bloody scary, but yeah.
Yeah.
Oh well, Jonty's ripped, so yeah.
Jonty's yeeted.
Saying see you. He's already gone. But I mean, it's go on.
No, I wasn't going to say anything, mate. Just yeah.
Yeah, it's hard as hell to make content at the moment, obviously, because of work and all those time constraints and so on.
Yeah.
But it'll be very interesting to see how it all unfolds really next month when it becomes a full-time gig for me.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, obviously, I don't want to sound like the killjoy, but I feel like we might have talked about everything we need to. For the people that are left in the chat, is there anything that you'd like to discuss?
I think the only other thing that we could end up discussing is the like Renault leaving F1 rumors, but apart from that, not really.
I think Renault has got one problem, one thing they need to get rid of that will solve all their problems. Cyril people.
Yeah. I knew that was coming.
Because he deserves nothing more than excruciating pain. Okay,
Wow.
way too dark.
Oh, wow.
Definitely.
That took a turn
Wow.
for the worst. And on that bombshell,
I think with Renault, I think with Renault, because I don't like, in terms of the actual views of people, because Renault are in, when they left F1 in after Spygate, really after Spygate, their reputation as a team was on the fence. Some people thought it wasn't damaged, some people thought it was damaged too much, with Flavio leaving and obviously the team being fined. I think now they're just getting to the point where now the reputation is sorted and they've kind of cemented themselves as a strong F1 team for the future. And that's why I think that they're now in to stay for a long time. But they just need to get to the front. And they are a team that could possibly leave if they don't get to the front. But they are a team, I think, to stay and have a good run. I know it sounds weird, but I think with Nico leaving, I think that's damaged them a little bit. And that sounds really, really strange, but because I think that when they took Nico, it was to build a team up again and to look and think that he couldn't do it. Maybe they're kind of now thinking twice about being in F1, and they've now lost Ricardo. And I know we made our prediction video. Obviously on the F1 DS side, we made our prediction video, but I'm not 100% sure, not even 70% sure who's going to fill that seat. And I said Alonso as a bit of a stocking filler / surprise. So just one thing to end on. Who do we think will take that seat?
Depends if it'll stay, but there was some rumor that said possibly like Luke Williams said on that post that we put on, said, what are the chances of Gasly getting that seat? Do we really think he's going to get it?
I mean, marketing wise, yeah, it makes sense. You know, two French drivers in a French team, it makes sense. I don't know. I think it would be a good move for Gasly because personally, I can't see him going back to Red Bull, and neither can I with Kvyat. So, and that's even if Albon has a rocky start, I can't see either of them being re-promoted essentially. But then again, this is Red Bull, so anything's possible. I mean, it's a hard one to call. I mean, the rumor are saying that Bottas they've had talks with Bottas, which again would be an all right move, I guess. I predicted Hulkenberg as like just get him in quickly and you know what I mean. Like he won't he won't need long to settle in. I mean Alonso, I honestly cannot see it. And I don't really want him back. I'm not like one of these guys who really hate Alonso, but I've always said he's a brilliant driver and all that. But like he's had his time in F1. He did Renault want a top team. He wants to be at a top team. He can't see him there. One of the young guns. I think it is too early for the young guns. Even if F2 gets underway, I don't see it. So really, Gasly is an outside chance. But for me, it's either going to be Bottas or Hulkenberg.
The thing that really is the sticking point with Gasly for me is that there's been like history between those two, like Gasly and.
They don't get on, do they? Apparently, they hate each other.
They don't like each other. I think it was mentioned, like it was with Will Buxton. He did an interview with Will Buxton. Pierre Gasly did, and he was talking about he was talking about Ocon and like why they they sort of like lost contact or something. I just don't think that would be like an ideal partnership considering what like Renault need at the moment. Like they've managed to get good staff over like the sort of like winter period. They managed to get Pat Fry, who was the technical director over at McLaren. He was going to start working on the 21 car, and he was it's like with him came Dirk de Beer, and they were both working. They'd previously worked at Lotus, and they were involved in the 2012 and the 2013 car. And considering that they had some like they weren't the richest like team out there, considering they managed to get competitive machinery out, and with the the amount of money that Renault had at the moment, But I think what Renault need is, like they need to have a like stronger team, and I don't necessarily think that having like infight and like what they had with Arnaud and Prost during the early 80s. I don't think that's necessarily the solution that they need at the moment to have like two French drivers.
Yeah, just sorry, I'm just saying back to Meerkat. Obviously he's going. So obviously, see you, mate. Thanks
Bye, everyone.
thanks for coming on. Oh, there he
See you,
is.
mate.
Hey, I was
Bye.
gonna type as well. Bye bye.
Bye-bye. Ciao.
It is a really like last man standing, isn't it? Because we're
It is.
losing people.
I think what we should do, right, Lyle? I think you should round it off, end it here, and then we'll probably have like our own little chat as well. Because we've been going for over 2 hours now.
That sounds awesome. We have, yeah. I was wondering to cut it to across, yes. So yeah, that is the end of our show. Anyone that's listening, I hope you've really enjoyed listening to us ramble on. We've had a great chat. I just want to thank the people that have been in the chat that have left. So we've got Dan from E Reviews, Alda. By the way, Dan from F1 E Reviews. It's Dan. Yeah. But so Dan, Aldas. Who have you had? We've had
John T, Jack.
John T, Jack. So everyone else, thank you very much for being on. And of course, the people that are still standing: Jordan, Josh Ravel, Ewan, Lotus Raptos, and then of course myself.
And of course Ollie as well. Ollie was here. He had to leave. I think he was the first to leave. So
yeah.
It's been an incredible chat, guys that are still here. I mean, have you got anything?
No, I don't think. Josh,
Awesome.
anything from you?
Anything from me? Hashtag Lord Mark.
Awesome.
Buy your shirts now.
Yes, and if you are interested in buying a tie from Josh Ravel, then please go and check out his T channel.
Oh, right.
The T channel,
Please do.
and T store.
My income when I quit my job next month.
Wow.
I expect to check in the post.
We will be leaving links to your guys' channel and the other participants in this chat. We'll be leaving your links down below when we do post this episode. Again, just want to say thank you very much for being on. Everyone that's listening to us, thank you very much for sticking around on our channel on the F1 Debate. We have loads more content coming out for you guys, so please stay tuned for that. We are very close to 2,000. And as I say, please check out the other channels that have been involved in this chat. They have some great content also coming out. And obviously, yeah, just a great chat, great friends to be with. So that is where we're going to end this episode. Thank you very much for listening. And until next time, everybody, we'll see you later.
See you guys. Cheers.